Welcome in, everybody, to another Yards Per Fantasy personalized podcast. My name is Ryan Larrison. I'm joined today on the side of me, Alex Johnson, the boss of Yards Per Fantasy, and then down below me, Dennis at Madison Madman on Twitter. We're going to be reviewing the Hingles Bi League, 12-man, half PPR redraft league. This will be the first redraft that I do for the personalized podcast, but I'm pretty excited about it. And we're gonna just jump right into it. I'm gonna take the first team here out of we each got four. First team is balling on a budget, and I gotta say, I'm not. I'm pretty happy with the way that your team turned out, especially for this auction format. You guys got a $200 budget, but we'll have to talk about Cooper Cup in a little bit because we're all gonna have to figure out how to navigate that one. Quarterback, you got Joe Burrow for 22. Perfectly fine. You're going to be perfectly fine with Joe Burrow. Couldn't stack him with any of his weapons, but that's perfectly fine. Running back, I like your running back room, especially your top three. You picked up Ken Walker. You got James Conner, who I believe in as a rock solid RB2. I know most people in yards per feel the same way. And then Javonte Williams. More split on that one with a lot of people. I'm personally pretty high on Javonte this year. I got him ranked inside my top 24. I think he's going to finish that high by the end of the year. Beginning of the year might be a little rough as they work him back into game shape, which I think is pretty much expected. But you can supplement that with James Conner and your number 5 RB, Raheem Mostert. You can use him early if you don't feel comfortable because no Jeff Wilson for the first 4 weeks. Devon Achane is back at practice now, but we don't know how much they're going to trust a rookie for the first couple of weeks of the regular season. Mostert should get 15 touches at least in the first few games. And then Kamara, I'm not a huge fan of Kamara. If you've seen anything from me on Twitter, I'm not a big Kamara guy. But for $6 on a $200 auction budget as your RB4, you're going to do perfectly fine, I think. Let's get to the wide receiver room. This is where it gets a little bit more rough. Cooper Cup. Do you guys have any guesses as to how long Cooper Cup's going to miss? Because my roundabout guess with the re-aggravation is probably the first 4 weeks at minimum.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. I mean, he already injured it once during preseason, during camp, and then he re-injures it, and now he has to go to a specialist, which is just like the ultimate red flag.
I've never seen that report before. A specialist for a hamstring injury is something I've never seen.
Well, I mean, hamstrings linger probably more than any other injury that's like a minor thing. So, I mean, that's like the worst case scenario right before the season start because like you can't ever know if you're 100% until you try, and that's when you try, that's when it happens again. So,
and it's one of those injuries that keeps coming back. If you don't get 100% healthy, you're going to re-aggravate that more than likely.
Well, and that's the big problem here, right? He's already re-aggravated it.
Already done it.
So, like, if they don't manage this, if they don't manage this properly, look at Keenan Allen last year. Horrible mismanagement of his hamstring injury. They tried to bring him back, I think it was twice, and it didn't work out. Didn't start playing again until I think week 11 or 12, fully, and he was fully healthy. It seems like they're managing this properly. I mean, like I said, specialist. I've never heard of a specialist for a hamstring injury. I don't think it's ever been reported, at least in recent years, that somebody has gone to that. And I think that it's going to be a month. You're going to have to wait a month. And I don't know if the rest of your wide receiver core is going to hold you sufficient until then. You've got Christian Watson, Odell Beckham Jr., Hollywood Brown. I like Christian Watson, Hollywood Brown, OBJ. I'm not sold on. I think Zay Flowers is going to be the number one there in Baltimore. And then I know Dennis loves Rashad Bateman. So
don't do that to me.
Yeah, the rest of the wide receiver core here to kind of supplement the loss of Cup for most likely the first month of the season. Christian Watson and Hollywood Brown, you can use them as a 1-2 punch. Although I've got Hollywood Brown as a 4 on most of my teams this year. I've seen him drop in drafts. I don't know if people believe in him as much at this point. And maybe for good reason because Clayton Tune's going to throw him the ball. At least that's what it sounds like from the Twitter reports from their new head coach. It's tank for Caleb Williams. Like it's that whole team is going to try not to win a game this year. OBJ, like I said, I'm not the biggest proponent of having OBJ, and I think it's going to be really frustrating to start, especially after 2 knee injuries to the same knee. Got to compete with Flowers, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman. It's going to be really tough to know if he's going to be able to give you anything consistently. And if you're playing him in matchups, that's going to be a really frustrating flex. Sutton, I like as at $4. I think Sutton. I know we all kind of love Marvin Mims, especially the value of him with Judy kind of being gone, but Sutton's a veteran. So for the first few games, I feel like he's probably going to be the one that's force-fed the most targets. Russell Wilson's just got to get more than half a second to throw the ball. And if the preseason is any indication of that, it's going to be rough for some of the games that they got on their slate. Maybe as we get to the tight ends, obviously you spent up for Kelsey, so you're good there at tight end, but you also got Hockenson for only $13. I have Hockenson as a top 3 tight end this year. Him, Mark Andrews are the 2 guys for me right behind Travis Kelsey. You can flex Hockenson over a lot of these receivers if you have to. And also, you could probably trade Hockenson to somebody to get a receiver back, especially in a redraft league. Like, I've got some teams on here who spent a total of $1 on their tight end out of a $200 budget. So there's guys that you can target in this league to trade for a wide receiver. Just hope that Kupp actually has his hamstring injury managed properly, because we saw it last year with the Chargers and Keenan Allen, how it can be as poorly mismanaged as possible. If that happens to Kupp, man, dude, you're going to be hurting. You might not find a way to make it to 500 this year. Like that's just the awful truth of it all. And then Patriots TST, you got to play Philadelphia week 1. You should probably go find a different one. I don't know.
Why did they even draft him or draft them?
I mean, I didn't look at their schedule past that, because my suggestion is it was $1 for you. Immediately drop them and find another defense. You can't
defenses.
Yeah, you can't play the Patriots week 1 against Philadelphia. Listen, I'm not saying that as a homer. Like, Alex is a Patriots fan. Do you want him starting New England? No.
Not even close. No.
Not even close. Overall, I really like your running back room. Obviously, you're finding a quarterback and you spent up to get Kelsey. But if Kupp was healthy, I would really, really like this team. Problem is he's not healthy. And that really dampens everything, because having to trust Christian Watson as your 1, which I think he can max out inside the top 15 if he hits full potential. But that's going to be tough to do with Jordan Love. He doesn't have Aaron Rodgers anymore. And then having to supplement your 2 between OBJ, Sutton, and Hollywood Brown, that's rough. I wouldn't want that as my wide receiver core. So it's going to cost you some games if you don't get the big boom Kelsey week and you don't get high production out of Ken Walker, James Conner, Javonte Williams trio. So you guys think that's pretty par for the course there? You disagree, agree?
Yeah. I love the Raheem Mostert value at $1.
Big.
He's probably starting for you for the first few weeks while we wait for Kamara to come back, and maybe even to see what happens with Javonte Williams. Is he what his role is going to be? Are they going to ease him back in? Is he going to be 100%? So Mostert can kind of be that bridge until he gets hurt. So I like him for $1 there, especially this week against the Chargers. It's going to be a high-scoring offense.
I was going to ask you guys, do you guys start Mostert over Javonte this week if he has the choice?
I would. Yeah.
It's tough. I know, Dennis. I want to start Javonte.
It's early in the week. You still don't know anything yet as far as injuries. I would wait. The 2 guys I wanted to talk about that you already mentioned, Christian Watson for 13. I'm not even a Watson guy. I think he's overhyped, but for that value, I think that's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
He's going pretty early in draft, so around wide receiver 22 or so, an underdog. And then Hockenson, man, like you got to pair him with somebody and try and get one of these top wide receivers, or at least like a more reliable one. Pair him with Marquise Brown, or even pair him with Kupp and see if you can get one of these topper, couple of the guys after a couple of weeks, and you see maybe somebody has some good wide receiver depth.
Yeah, I don't know why you, after drafting Kelsey, you also spent up on Hawkinson.
You think $13 was a spend up though? I think that's a decent value in a $200 budget.
It's a decent value if he's your tight end 1.
Right.
Yeah. Because you already spent over 25% of your budget on just Kelsey.
Right.
And Dennis has a point.
If you're going to go all in on Kelsey, just go all in on Kelsey.
That's true.
Don't even touch another tight end.
Dennis has a point with the Cup thing. If you want out, someone will buy in on the injury. Eventually they'll get him back. To have Cooper Kupp is a big thing, especially in a redraft league. This isn't Dynasty. So, you go after somebody with Kupp and Hawkinson, I think you're going to get a damn good return. Someone that can give you more stability than Christian Watson being a boomer bust wide receiver 1 for your team.
Yeah. Adam Schefter tweets out, hey, Cooper Kupp has a chance to play next week. Everybody's going to pay up for him.
Oh, 100%. He's still day-to-day, remember? We don't believe it.
He's specialist, but he's day-to-day.
It's horrible. Sean McVay kills me with that. Yeah, man. Overall, I think this team is pretty, to use a fantasy term, it's pretty boom bust. I think if you get cut back within the first few weeks and you're able to, within those first 4 weeks, you can go 500, win in a couple of games, I think you could be okay. If you get a fully healthy Cooper Kupp by week 5, this roster can make a decent run towards the playoffs. But if not, and you really struggle to win those games just because you don't have your big player in Kupp, it's going to be a rough season. You might have to abandon ship by week 4. You might not win one of those first 4 games, just depending on who you're playing against. So, boomer bust, man. You got to figure that out. I would definitely go and trade for a wide receiver to help out with the loss of Kupp. You have the depth at certain places to do it. Someone will pay for Kamara. Someone will pay for Hawkinson. Make it happen. You can make it happen. Dennis, it's on to you, though, man.
All right. I have Hingles Grime time. All right. So at quarterback, they got Danny Dimes, and they have AR in Indianapolis. Running back, they have Eckler, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, Evan Hall. Wide receiver, Devonta Adams, Debo, Nuke Hopkins, Jordan Anderson, Gabe Davis, Rondo Moore. So definitely the strength of that team. And then Kyle Pitts, my guy, and Ryan's guy at tight end. So I have some superlatives. No, you're on mute right now, Ryan. Best pick, Kyle Pitts for $5.
I'll agree. That's a good price. I'll agree.
Right.
With that.
He's going as tight end 6 on Underdog. So one of the very few kind of at least being drafted as tight end, set it and forget it. I know people are very frustrated after last year, but you got to remember he still produced as a rookie, and he still had that insane target share that only Mandrews and Kelsey can even come close to sniffing. I think you're buying at the floor here. Some other tight ends, Waller for $16, Pat Freiermuth for $8, and Njoku for $5. I think many people would say you have the highest upside, and I like Waller more in redraft, but for $11 more, you hopefully you're able to use that money to kind of help out the rest of your team. So I love that pick. Worst pick, I have DeAndre Hopkins for $19, going as wide receiver 24 on Underdog. I think his best days are just behind him. Shout out our collab article, Do Not Draft List. This was my pick, so it just kind of worked out nicely. Sorry, my guy Hingles. He's going on a defense plus running game type team for success. Like, the Titans are clearly not blowing it up. They're trying to win. How are they going to win? They're going to play good defense. They're going to run the ball. That means that they are not going to be moving quickly. Tennessee was 31st in offensive plays per game last year. That's no bueno for a pass catcher. All right. This offense literally runs through Derrick Henry. And they have an up-and-coming wide receiver that they traded away, A.J. Brown, got this pick, and took Treylon Burks, who's already practicing without a brace. Other wide receivers that went at that similar price, Godwin for 13, Judy for 8, Evans for 7. Wow. Watson, 13, where you mentioned. Dotson for 9. What do you guys think about my best pick, worst pick so far?
Oh, I 100% agree. And I don't think I'm as far out on Hopkins as you are. I think that he could still produce, but naming the guys that were spent the same money around, I mean, I don't know, man. That's rough to try and throw your faith in, because that's his wide receiver too, basically, right? Well, Debo is his two, so this can be his three. But when you're in this type of league where the money's being thrown around, I mean, I just read off my roster, and Hockenson might be a flex. Like, there's going to be some teams that are built a lot different than others. Some only have 2 running backs, so I just don't think I would trust Hopkins to be flexed over some of the guys, especially, like you said, Christian Watson for 13 and Evans for, what was it, 8, 7? Like, these are guys that I think are pretty comparable. And Burks,
9.
Don't get me started on that. Dotson's my boy. Like, that's just,
I know,
crazy value there. Yeah, I don't love that. So I agree with you wholeheartedly on the worst pick of his draft. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would agree too. I don't have much more to add to that. But
Alrighty then.
I think you covered it all.
Got it.
Yeah, I know. We mentioned this off air, but with auction drafts, sometimes at the beginning and at the end, there can be some interesting values based on who's spending early and who has money left at the end. And they're like, well, screw it. What else am I going to spend this money on? So we do know that. We don't know when these guys happened in the order of nominations necessarily. So that definitely does change things. I have a make or break pick, and then I have a pick that wins you the title. So my make or break pick is Davante Adams. You spent $54. This was your top, second most expensive guy, and so he's very important. I like Adams a lot. In my main dynasty league, I've spent over pick 108 for him plus. So I really do believe that he's going to be a good player. Just don't know if he's going to be as good as some of the guys that you spent that went for less money than him. To his credit, he was wide receiver 3 last year. He led in receiving touchdowns, but I think he got a QB downgrade. And when that happens, your whole offense downgrades a lot. Amon-Ra went for less. CD went for less. Garrett went for less. AJB went for less. Now, when you're talking in the 50s of dollars, who cares about $1 or $2? But just saying, like, those are the guys that went around that same price. And so, like, you're really counting on Adams to be a star and repeat that wide receiver 3 finish. And I don't think he's going to be. I definitely have Amon-Ra and I have AJB before him.
Yeah. And I could argue Garrett Wilson too. Like, I think I would still rather have Garrett Wilson. I have him ranked higher for redraft. And the only saving grace for Adams is we've seen him at least do it with like a lower yards per target. So he can still do it. But as he continues to age, no Waller there. Like, I think he's got good complementary pieces to kind of work the game plan around him to where it's not just Davante Adams and a bunch of scrubs. Like, they still have, Jacoby Myers, they have Renfro, they have a rookie tight end in Meyer that I think could, maybe do something. Jimmy Garoppolo has targeted tight ends. And they have a really good run game. So I don't think you can just single out Davante Adams, like if he was on another team where, like the Titans, where if he was the only dude and defenses could just single him out. But I don't think his ceiling's nearly as high. So paying up that price with some of the guys that went around him, definitely like a make or break pick. I agree completely.
Yeah, I don't hate the value. But like you said, you could have gotten better value if you could have gotten like AJ Brown for cheaper or close price. I mean, I like Adams is fine for me this year. I kind of just lukewarm on him. I like him just where he goes. Not above consensus or below consensus. We've seen Jimmy Garoppolo. He can propel a wide receiver or a tight end to a great season. So he's capable of doing that. And if Davante Adams, I know he's 31 years old, he's got anything left, which I think he does. He can still put up another dominant season.
Oh yeah, I agree. He's still a top 5 receiver in the NFL. I think that's pretty easy to argue, but yeah, the QB downgrade is definitely hurting. And it's funny that we go from Carr to Garoppolo and everyone thinks that's a big downgrade, but it is. It really is. Like Carr gets crapped on a little bit too much for NFL standards, not for fantasy.
In an auction, a couple dollars here or there is the difference. So hopefully you're dead on, and Adams is that guy again. But like we said, probably could have gotten that production or similar for a couple of dollars less, and maybe that allows you to spend more, at a different point in the draft. My last one is the pick that wins you the title, and this one's kind of obvious when looking at it. It's Anthony Richardson for $4. The price doesn't really matter. It's just the guy himself. He is probably the upside of all upside picks in 2023 as far as like the high variance of his outcomes, right? This offense has some pieces, like we've talked, and if you've listened to previous shows, like their wide receivers do have a good complementary skill set. The offensive line has guys that at times in their points in the career have been stars. He's got a good, head coach. That was the Philadelphia Eagles OC. The JT news really hurts him, in my opinion, losing your best player on offense. But maybe that's what propels him to break the single season rushing record for a quarterback. You know what I mean? Maybe he's getting 15 carries a game and just that's what happens, right? So I just think the range of outcomes is extreme. You probably will have some weeks where you start him and you get a total dud, but then you might also bust out a 40-point week because you busted a 70-yard touchdown. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I think without Jonathan Taylor, I think it actually opens up his ceiling more, at least as a runner, because they're not going to be, tempted to hand the ball off as much as they would have before because you don't have the stud running back in the backfield. So now they're like, well, maybe we should design some runs for Anthony Richardson. Maybe we should drop him back, roll him out some more, give him opportunities to use his legs instead of Zach Moss.
Yeah. Who has a broken arm, by the way. It's not even going to be Zach Moss this week.
Right.
Evan Hall, baby.
Evan Hall, Dealon Jackson. I mean, are you excited about any of those guys? Taking 20 carries a game.
Friday.
I'm excited about them being a $0 waiver bid right after the draft. That was great. But yeah, no, not excited about having them there for Richardson. I know I'm the lowest on Richardson here, so I should probably be a little bit more quiet on this. But I like what you said with him is, he could definitely be the league winner if he reaches his peak for $4 in a $200 auction. I mean, sky's the limit, man. He could finish top 5. I'm not going to argue against that. I just don't believe he will personally. I don't like his weapons. Losing JT to me just puts all the pressure on Richardson. And the dude just didn't have enough time in college. He didn't have a good enough passing production in college for me to believe that he can be that top 5 fantasy player in year one. Right. That's the preface. I don't hate AR. I just think year one's going to be really, really rough.
I'm just saying your Minchies.
I like the way this guy approached the quarterback position.
Me too.
This is how I would approach it in an auction draft.
I have this.
You got Anthony Richardson for $4, and then if he doesn't work out, you got Daniel Jones for $2. So you spent $6 on quarterback in a 1 quarterback league. You got the huge upside with Richardson. I think he also has a floor because of the rushing, and Daniel Jones maybe doesn't run like Richardson, but he runs too. He also gives you that floor.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The grass will stop him from the end zone, but he runs a lot. So
here's
Earth Monster is a real thing, Ryan.
Here's the money question, though. Who are you starting in week 1?
Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, easy. Yeah, I couldn't.
They always got to show it.
Yeah. Colts, what's their first game? I can't remember. Oh, yeah. No, give me Danny Dimes. I don't really care what his matchup is.
Maybe with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I just think that's like I've done this exact build in Underdog where like you pick AR and then you grab Danny Dimes like almost a round or two later, just like, hey, I'm gonna have like my steady Eddie guy, and then if it pays out, look at this. Like Danny Dimes is almost my pick for best pick, but I just didn't really feel like a lower end quarterback should be the best pick in a 1 QB.
Yeah. But if this was a super flex league, I'm probably not drafting Richardson. I'm only touching in single quarterback leagues.
I get that.
Because
and
if
it
doesn't work out, you just drop him and you pick up somebody else. You can stream position.
You would have to draft him so early in Superflex. That would be
right.
He'd be a round 5 guy probably, and like not at that price. No, thank you. Like, no, not that. How many passing touchdowns between those two do you think that team gets passing touchdowns between AR and Danny Dimes? 25?
No, 40. Between
40?
the two of them? Wait. Between
like 32.
Between Richardson and Daniel Jones?
Daniel Jones hasn't thrown more than 15 TDs in a season, man.
I think he could get to 20. He could get to 22. And Richardson, maybe he gets
18. 18 is
pushing it a little bit. It's pushing a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, give me like 37. That's my number.
30.
That's not too high.
That was my ceiling.
27. 27. That's generous.
All right, I can't save your Menchies from that. All right, let's move on, Alex. You're up.
Okay. All right, my first team is the Hoffmeister. At quarterback, he's got just the one guy, Justin Herbert. New offensive coordinator, ran one of the best offenses in the league in the last few years. I think we all agree that that's only going to be a good thing for Justin Herbert and the whole offense. He's my QB7. Nick Chubb, I think we all love Nick Chubb this year. The workhorse, great offense, no Kareem Hunt. He's going to see more targets than he's had in the past. Even with the addition of Pierre Strong, I don't think Pierre Strong is eating into Nick Chubb's, even his target share, to be honest. I think he's in for the best year of his career. J.K. Dobbins, he's finally healthy, and he might catch more passes in this Todd Monken offense than he ever has. Only competition behind him is Justice Hill and Gus Edwards. I have him ranked as my RB19. Then we get to David Montgomery. He's one of my favorite running backs to draft this year. Great offensive line. Should get most of the between the tackles work and the goal line carries, and one of the most explosive offenses in the league. Jamal Williams scored 17 touchdowns in this offense last year, and Montgomery is a better running back in every way than Jamal Williams. He'll share with Jahmyr Gibbs, but I think both Gibbs and Montgomery should get enough work that they're both RB2s in fantasy football. Antonio Gibson is on this team. He's in line to get a bunch of work in the passing game. J.D. McKissick is long gone. He is dead.
Not literally.
I had to pause for a second to make sure he wasn't literally dead. Because
we're not announcing that on this podcast that he died.
He's still alive, as far as we know. But yeah, Gibson, he's the explosive guy in this backfield versus Brian Robinson, who's like your boring between the tackles grinder. So I have Gibson as my RB27. I like him a lot this year. I think that's slightly above consensus for him. Tank Bigsby on your bench as well. He looked great in training camp and in preseason. Could end up moving into that elite handcuff tier with like a Jalen Warren and like a Elijah Mitchell type. I think Bigsby can get to that level. Sorry, my notes are confusing here. Could have some standalone value, but I don't think he's going to take any. He's not a threat to take any sort of significant work away from Travis Etienne. When we get to wide receiver, I really like Olave and the Olave and Metcalf combination at the top that you have here. Metcalf has top 12, top 15 upside, even with the presence of Tyler Lockett and JSN. Olave, he's my wide receiver 10 on the season. I think he's a great fit with Derek Carr. He's going to have no problem outproducing Michael Thomas. Get to Jahan Dotson. I know you guys love Jahan Dotson. He's going to have an opportunity early in the season to play a big role with Terry McLaurin, possibly missing week 1, recovering from that toe injury. And there is a chance that Sam Howell is good now that his coach has discovered him.
That quote, I can't.
He's just admitting how bad he is at finding quarterbacks.
Yes,
he really is
horrible.
He didn't even know they were eliminated from the playoffs last year. And Taylor Heineke had to go and be like, hey, maybe you should start this guy instead of me.
Can someone inform him Gibson is good too?
Yeah, please.
He called him CMC in his rookie year. What happened to that, man? Jesus.
Ron Rivera, I'm sorry, Bear legend, but get the hell out of here.
Yeah, and his wife had to tell him that Sam Howell was good.
Oh my God.
So bad. But anyway, Traylon Burks on the bench. He's been dealing with injuries. And the addition of DeAndre Hopkins really, really kills Treylon Burks as a sleeper pick for this year for me. But he is an explosive receiver, though. After the catch, he's really good after the catch. I've got him at my wide receiver 46. Van Jefferson, don't really have to say much about him. He could have a little bit of relevance while Cooper Kupp is out, but I'm still, I'm hoping you never have to start him in your lineup. Like,
with that wide receiver core, I don't think you will.
Yeah, you don't want to have to start him. So I would even consider dropping him, to be honest. Elijah Moore, it's kind of tough to read. He had that great stretch in his rookie season. Now has a fresh start with Deshaun Watson. I loved him coming out, but I'm kind of lukewarm on him after last year. I got him at wide receiver 45. Moving into tight end, we got Darren Waller. No target competition in that offense. It's going to be Darren Waller, and it's going to be Saquon Barkley getting the targets in that offense. Sam Laporta is your tight end 2. I don't know if you really need a tight end 2 after drafting Waller, but if you're going to have one, Sam Laporta is not a bad one to have. I like him as a rookie breakout this year. I think he could play a big early role, especially while Jameson Williams is suspended. So overall, I think this is a good team. Solid, no glaring weaknesses. I think you got good players at every position, and you got some upside on the bench. What do you guys think of this team?
Yeah, most solid, I think, that we've talked about so far in terms of like well-rounded. I don't think we all disagree with that. The only thing I'll say about Treylon Burks is that's his 4, correct? Is that his wide receiver 4 is Treylon Burks?
I think so, at least, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I've gotten on quite a few rosters as my 4, and I just kind of want to sit on him because, like kind of Dennis talked about earlier, Hopkins might be falling off a bit. He's had the injury problems the past few years. If Burks becomes the one again at any point, I feel like he's got a top 24 ceiling on a weekly basis, at least depending on the matchup, especially with Tannehill back. So to be able to sit him on your bench as your 4, and then if you got to throw him into your flex for that boom possibility, I like being able to have that type of flexibility with my bench guys.
He gives you upside. I mean, he's a guy that we haven't seen a whole lot of, and he was an explosive player coming out of Arkansas. He's got a chance. I mean, I guess if he hits big in his second season, but the injuries, dealing with injuries during camp, I really think that sets him back. And then so does the addition of DeAndre Hopkins. He's no longer the guy in that receiving core. Now he's the other guy in a low volume passing offense. So the ceiling has definitely come down from where it was.
Yeah. If this team,
No, if Hopkins misses, I just think that I think I have too much love for Burks before Hopkins went there. I was all in, and now I can't let go of it.
I loved Burks last year coming out.
Yeah, this team has a bunch of my favorite picks just from a value perspective. I think they spent their money very wisely.
Yeah.
Was probably patient, was able to kind of get guys for below market value. Dobbins, Dotson, Monty, Gibby, Burks, all for under $10. I like Van Jefferson. This is why you draft late, right before the season starts. I think who are they going to throw to at Cuffness this week 1? Because they're not going to run it to Cam freaking Akers. Sorry, Alex.
Tyler Higbee is going to have another season where he just tops 100 targets.
40 catches.
Yeah.
How gross, man.
Hey, sometimes for fantasy, gross is good, unfortunately.
That's right. It's true. Yep.
I draft like a defense before I draft Van Jefferson.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I'd rather, even if Van Jefferson is the Rams wide receiver 1, what's his ceiling? What is he giving you? Nothing. He's so replaceable on the waiver wire. He's a replaceable guy. He doesn't give you. I'd rather stash like a handcuff running back who, if his starter goes down, now you've got a guy you're starting every week. You're excited to start this guy. Everybody's rushing to the waiver wire. Nobody's rushing to the waiver wire to pick up Van Jefferson. Ever.
Unless you got injuries. If this cup thing really does stretch out, say he misses 8 weeks because he re-aggravates or he's not managed properly. Dude, Van Jefferson might be inside that top 36.
He's had some good gains, man. I think you're too low on my boy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He became my boy this moment.
Yeah.
You don't think his production as the wide receiver one in that offense is replaceable by maybe like a Zay Jones who's on the waiver wire in this league? Isaiah Hodgins, even Donovan Peoples-Jones, Devontae
Isaiah
Parker,
Hodgins, absolutely not.
Marvin Jones.
No,
you started great with Zay.
I know you don't believe him.
I'll give you Zay. I'll give you Zay Jones.
But the difference isn't that big. It can't be that
not at all. But I guess I would just hold on to him and see what happens.
That's fine. I don't.
This is a total mystery box type of offense right now, where you don't know what's going to happen.
Do we tell him to go get Puka instead? Go get Puka Nakua? No, I wouldn't either.
Puka shells.
If you bet on any Rams receiver with cup out, it's got to be Jefferson, or you just go full gross and get Tyler Higbee if you don't have a tight end, because he'll get 10 targets at least. That happened last year. It'll probably happen again.
I like Higbee this year.
I mean, back end tight end one. He's gross, but he's reliable.
So gross.
It's so gross.
But sometimes gross is good, like you said, especially the tight end.
Oh yeah,
they're all
only other thing I would add is just if you don't start Dotson week 1, you're crazy. Like, find a way to get him into your lineup. I know you have a stacked receiving core, but get him in. Absolutely crazy if you don't.
Yeah, I think he's in the lineup.
He's got to be.
I think you're starting through 3 wide receivers in this league plus a flex.
I think that
it's Metcalf, Olave, Dotson.
That's so good.
Montgomery in the flex, I think, is what you do for week 1. And then you still have Antonio Gibson on the bench, Elijah Moore on the bench.
Gibson's got a really good week 1 matchup as well. Let's throw all the Commanders in there week 1. That's going to be a gross game, but they could figure it out.
I'm starting all my DFS lineups with Dotson.
Yep, I've got Dotson in everything.
Smash.
Yep, 100%. All right, let's go to Alex. Do you have anything more to add? I'm sorry, I didn't want to skip you.
Nope.
Let's go to Kool-Aid McKinstry. Quarterback, Justin Fields. We've professed our love for Justin Fields a lot on this show. I have Fields in more leagues than most quarterbacks. I love him this year. I think he's got the chance to finish top 5 and max out at top 3 if he can hit that rushing ceiling. You really spent high for your top 2 running backs, almost half your budget. You got Pollard and Mixon. Mixon only $4 less than Pollard, which if I'm looking at that value-wise, Pollard's definitely worth more than $4 than Mixon is. But as your 2, I think the hate on Mixon goes a little bit too far sometimes when we look at fantasy football Twitter. He's still going to, as long as he's healthy, 250 to 300 touches is going to be what he gets. So as a 2, you're sitting pretty there. Rest of your bench there for running back, I'm not in love with it. I won't lie to you. Brian Robinson, I don't love Brian Robinson. I think he's just as bland as it gets, and I don't ever want to have to start him. I would much rather start P. Ryan, which you have as well, pretty much any week. I think P. Ryan's got the higher upside there.
He's the Tyler Higbee of running backs.
Yes, he is the Tyler Higbee of running back. You know what? That's almost an insult to Tyler Higbee.
Zach's gonna be so mad when he hears that.
Yeah, he will be. Deion Jackson. Real quick, who do you guys believe in for these 4 weeks? I know Deion Jackson started week 1. Do you think that him or Hall has more value by the end of this? I go Hall. Deion Jackson looked like an absolute jag when he started last year.
Give me the mystery box.
That's right.
Yeah, I think so. I guess. I mean, I don't want any of them.
I'm pretty sure
if you have to, I might as well go with the rookie. I kind of liked Hall coming out.
I did too.
Yeah, I think he's got a fun profile.
I think he would work out pretty well.
I think he's the most well-rounded running back in that room.
And I think he looked the best in preseason too when he got the chance, like over Deion Jackson.
He's got a little Tony Pollard in him.
Ooh, that's some good praise right there.
A little Tony Pollard.
Even a little bit is a lot. Tony Pollard is phenomenal. Yeah. So I'd take 2% of Tony Pollard for my skill set. That'd be great.
Any Tony Pollard. I mean, I'm short.
Yeah, right. We can imagine that. And then you got Algier. In my opinion, he's the top handcuff in all of fantasy football because I think Jaylen Warren can find a way to have standalone value at the end of the year. Not even by the end of the year, but just throughout the season. So backup running backs are fine. I think P. Ryan is your most valuable running back 3 out of these 4 guys. Wide receiver, I love your top 2. You got A.J. Brown, who you spent 50 on, which about 150 of your 200 budget went to Pollard, Mixon, and A.J. Brown. So that's fine. They're most likely your flag plants, and you love those guys for this year. I love 2 of the 3. I like Mixon. George Pickens for $8, I think is pretty good steal, in my opinion. If he maxes out with what we've, all the reports that are coming out of camp, everything we've seen in the preseason that he was able to do, the dude is just an athletic freak. I think there was a quote on Twitter that said his 50-50 balls are more 90-10 when it comes to catching them because he'll find a way to catch them. Azure 2, I think he can absolutely max out as a wide receiver 2 this year. Then we get to your bench receivers, which I'm not in love with, which I think, Alex, you said this is a 3-receiver league, so you got to start one of these guys.
Yeah, you got to start. Yeah. 3 receivers plus a flex. I don't know if you're starting a receiver in flex, but that's what I prefer to do.
Yeah, I do the same, but I'd put P. Ryan in over Pittman most times, I think, because I just think you're going to get games from Pittman where you get 2 points, and it's because they run the ball a ton. Their offense isn't on the field as much without JT, especially for his first 4 weeks. Inaccurate passes like this. I'm really worried about the Colts, if you can't tell, and I don't want anything to do with Pittman this year. Unless I see it. If it develops over the first few weeks, that's great. But if I can, I'm putting him on the bench if possible. I love Mooney for $1. Dennis, I know you'll love that. I mean, for $1, the number 2 wide receiver in Chicago, and that's the role that he thrives in. We've talked about this before. He's much better as a 2 than he is forced into being a 1. And then Quentin Johnston. Alex, do you want to talk about how much you hate Quentin Johnston?
I would love to talk about how much I hate Quentin Johnston.
I'll let you go, and then I'll try and
can't even beat out Josh Palmer. He's had a whole summer. This guy in the OTAs, he was like, "Yeah, I'm the wide receiver 3." He declared himself the wide receiver 3. Well, heading into the season, you're still not the wide receiver 3. They drafted you in the first round, bro. He's a deep threat who doesn't have speed. He's this big, tall receiver who is not a contested catch guy. He doesn't go up and get the ball. He doesn't win in contested situations. And he's dropping 30% of his passes thrown his way anyway, even when he gets open.
Are you telling me his catch percentage is the completion percentage of Anthony Richardson?
Yeah.
Don't do that.
He's just not ready to be a starter. He's just not ready. He's not ready. He's not. I don't think we talked about it on the show last night. We declared him. I know you guys probably have different opinions, but we all agreed he's not even draftable in redraft leagues at this point.
I've seen some bad 13th, 14th, and 15th round picks, man.
To be fair, that league only had 4 bench spots, so it was a smaller league.
Okay, but still,
this one's a little bit deeper. You got him for $1. It's fine. I'm okay with it for $1. But just be ready to drop him.
I don't know. You still seem pretty bitter about it for $1.
You're like the guy at the front of the band with the baton for Justin Herbert, but you don't want the guy they invested a first-round pick in.
No, because he can't play.
Okay, but what about the 2 guys ahead of him?
If they had drafted Zay Flowers or if they had drafted Jordan Addison, yes, I would be all in.
We need board bets in this yards per media thing. That's all I'm saying.
We got to get into the group me chat and set that up, Alex. We could do that. To me, the Johnston pick for NFL purposes was purely replace soon to be 30 somehow Mike Williams in the next year or 2.
But he's not Mike Williams.
29-year-old.
I don't think his game matches what Mike Williams does. He wants to be Mike Williams. He looks like he should be Mike Williams, but he doesn't play like Mike Williams. He doesn't have that aggressive, go get the ball mentality that Mike Williams does.
As your wide Yeah, as your wide receiver 5, I think you're fine. But
yeah, he's also the Chargers wide receiver 5. So,
oh man, you want to talk about drive-bys?
I'm ready for the 150-yard Week 10 game.
Oh man, dude,
when this blows up in my face.
You thought I was gonna parade when Trey Sermon made the roster, dude. Someone will find you on Twitter for some of this, but that's okay. That's good.
They always find me. They
do. Chigo Conquo for $1. He's one of my favorite late round targets in regular redraft formats. I usually get him 14th, 15th round if I've absolutely punted the tight end position. But I also stopped doing that more once DeAndre Hopkins went to the team. I don't think it hurts him as much as some people think because having more targets helps a tight end in terms of coverage a lot more on a team. But even then, this is not a pass-heavy offense. Like we said in the past, I can't believe he's getting an upgrade when you go to Ryan Tannehill, but he is compared to most of the targets he got last year. And he earned them as a rookie. So I think that he's got a chance, but you probably want to find somebody else if possible to start on a weekly basis. This is going to be your rotational spot.
He's got Kittle, though, right?
Yeah.
Does he have Kittle? I must have deleted that by accident. That's my apologies. Well, you might not have Kittle week 1 by the sounds of it. If you've seen the reports, he's not practicing. We don't know. He was already hurt coming into the regular season out of camp. So maybe that's why I just erased him from my mind. That's horrible. Jeez. No, but obviously Kittle, you'll be fine once you have him available. Okonkwo as your backup is perfectly fine as well. But I feel like if I had Kittle on most rosters, I would also roster some sort of backup tight end if possible. So I think you grabbed a good one.
If you're going to draft a backup tight end, you might as well take a swing on the guy with the huge athletic profile and has the biggest upside.
Yeah. He could easily have a Robert Tonyan season of 8 to 10 touchdowns just randomly and not a ton of yards and receptions, and you'll get good games out of him. And like we said, if anything happens to Burks, who's already injured, anything happens to Hopkins, who's old, has an injury history the past few years, Okonkwo pretty much becomes the one because Nick Westbrook-Ikhine isn't taking all those targets. I can tell you that. Saints defense, great pick, by the way. They have one of the easiest opening schedules I think I've ever seen. So you're going to be starting them for the first 6 weeks, and you'll be fine. So $2 and a $200 budget, 100%. Favorite pick? I think I'm going to make it Justin Fields because I've seen what other quarterbacks are going for in this league, and at $16, I think that's pretty solid. That's to me probably worth a 6th, 7th round pick. He's going 4 or 5 in most drafts. I think you're going to get potentially top 3 production, like I said. Least favorite pick. Can I make it Pittman for $9? If Quentin Johnson can be Alex's least favorite pick for $1, I think I can make it Pittman for $9.
I'm okay with that.
As your 3, I don't know. I don't even like him as your 3.
I love Pittman in long-term dynasty if he had a good quarterback situation, but I really have barely drafted him at all this year. I think I've drafted him an underdog just to have a little bit of Michael Pittman.
Yeah, because he'll have his games here and there. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. He's a good receiver. It's nothing against Pittman. It's just
exactly.
He got a downgrade in passer from last season, and I don't know how that's possible with some of the quarterback play he played with. So, and I think my favorite pick that you spent the least amount of money on is just P. Ryan. I love Javonte Williams, but I think that with Sean Payton, the head coach, he has supported 2 top 24 running backs in the past. I'm not projecting that they're both going to finish top 24, but it's good to know that he's going to use both of these guys no matter who's healthy and who's not. So I think you're going to get decent, steady flex production on pretty much a weekly basis with P. Ryan. And he's your 4 technically, but I think he's your 3 over Brian Robinson. So what do you guys think of this team? I think it's decent. It's not my favorite, but I think it can make a late playoff push and get in as one of the final few playoff teams if everything goes right.
Yeah, it's a solid team. I think the biggest issue I would have with it is I love Joe Mixon. I think he's been a great value this year, but you didn't get the value for him here.
Yeah.
He overspent. When you look at like some of the other running backs in this league, like Kenneth Walker, I mean, I have Kenneth Walker ranked below Joe Mixon, but there was a $32 gap between those two guys. I would much rather have Kenneth Walker for $14 or even Aaron Jones for $30 than Joe Mixon at nearly $50, which is almost what you paid for Tony Pollard.
I'm curious if someone drove the price up or if he saw that and was like, "Hey, here's $10 more on Mixon. I want to make sure I grab him," because
maybe he's just a Mixon guy. I don't know.
Maybe the league is a Mixon league.
Maybe
they,
right,
they
because
all love him.
I guess you're right because you're not. Yeah, you could have. Yeah.
Henry was less.
Yeah, I get that. You got any thoughts, Dennis?
No, I agree with pretty much everything you guys are saying. I'm lower on Pickens than most, but that's all right. I hate defenses in fantasy. It's I'm stream. The only defense this year that's worth holding on to is the Saints because the quarterbacks they play is abysmal. It's like, yeah, give me the Saints all day long.
They also, great thing I saw on Twitter, they play all of their games inside of a dome this year except for one. Every single game is in a dome. I swear to God. One, that's great for Derek Carr because he does I think it's 4 or 5 fantasy points more per game inside of a dome. So we're probably all sleeping on Derek Carr at this point.
Cali boy.
But yeah, conditions are not going to be an issue. Oh, that's good. All right, I'm done with that one. You can go ahead, Dennis.
We're up to Waxing Dat Ass, which is my front runner for best name. They got Deshaun Watson at quarterback. That's the only guy they took. Pretty solid. Christian McCaffrey and Ramondre Stevenson at running back, along with Rashad Penny, Devin Singletary, Joshua Kelly. Probably not who I would spend money on, but okay. Wide receiver, we got T. Higgins, Amari Cooper, Scary Terry McLaurin, Jacoby Myers, Zay Flowers, let's go. Tyler Boyd, Curtis Samuel. And then at tight end, they have our much discussed Tyler Higbee as their only tight end.
Good pick.
Oh, some things about Waxing Dat Ass. The best pick by far, one of my top picks in this draft is Ramondre Stevenson for $27.
Yep.
Good God. I would easily rather have him than Mixon.
I was just going to say, we were talking about Joe Mixon for 46. You could have gotten Ramondre for 27.
Right. I purposely left his name out just for the shock factor. I love that we brought up the Mixon pick. But anyway, dude had 69 receptions and 1,000 yards rushing. Very, very few players pull that off to have that dual threat. And you got to remember, Damian Harris was there, and he started most of those games. Like, it's like basically it's like Chicago where Montgomery left. That kind of void is there. And I know Zeke showed up, but missed me with that. Like, this is a Stevenson show right now. He was RB11, only 6 touchdowns. Like, he's a big boy. I love that. I think he's top 12, top 8 probably at running back. So that was easily the best pick in my opinion. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I knew we were going to do that. We paused too long. I'm glad you brought up the touchdown thing because the thing I've seen most with people being worried about the Zeke Elliott signing is, oh no, his touchdowns are going away. Now he's not so valuable. He was top 12 with 6 total. He's going to be just fine. Like, there's no reason to worry about Ramondre. He's actually got an offensive coordinator now, by the way, and a pretty good one in Bill O'Brien. Like, if there's anything O'Brien can do, it's call offensive plays. He can't be a GM and he can't be a head coach, but he can find a way to make an offense work. So Ramondre at 27, that's got to be the steal of this whole team.
They still have no weapons in the passing game either. So
yeah,
they're leaning on the run game, and they're leaning on Ramondre Stevenson targets still.
Yeah. This is like, he's not explosive like Christian McCaffrey, but this is like that kind of workload potential. You know what I mean?
And he's got McCaffrey too.
Oh my God, I love McCaffrey. I don't care how much you spend for him. Anything in the world is worth it.
That RB combo is probably the best that I've seen so far. And obviously we're going to go through some other teams, and you've got good depth. Like, his wide receiver depth is great. Sucks that McLaurin's got the toe injury right now, but you'll get him back eventually. It's just turf toe. Like, I don't think there was a bad pick looking at this roster. except for maybe Devin Singletary.
Well, what about my worst pick? Is Deshaun Watson. Now, he is the bottom of my QB I want to leave a draft with because I do think he has that top 12 week in, week out kind of floor. However, you paid $16 when Justin Herbert went for 13, Dak went for 3, and then Fields, we just talked about, went for 16. It was just no for pay. Again, not the worst case scenario, but compared to your team, like Ryan just said, you made some good picks. This was, in my opinion, the worst one.
I'm wondering if, because so it says that he went number 60 overall, round 5. If maybe some quarterback panic set in, like, oh man, if I don't get this one, I'm gonna be screwed looking at the rest. But even still, to get him at the same price basically that Justin Fields went for is pretty crazy in my opinion. So I agree. That's probably the worst pick for sure.
And it looks like he got Amari Cooper the pick before.
Oh, maybe
so
maybe
he overpaid for that stack as well.
Yeah. And if so,
it's not a severe overpay. It's just
no.
Compared to some of the other guys you could have gotten value as
well. I mean, like I said, I do like his prospects. He was the last 2 weeks he was a QB1. So maybe they kind of started to figure it out. He had a big layoff without playing, and then they added Elijah Moore. Everything they're saying, they want to be more geared towards Watson and making that huge contract work, which typically follow the money. So, I think it's like you're not going to lose your league because you got Watson for 16. It was just, in my opinion, the worst pick.
Yeah. To get the stack, I think it's pretty nice.
But if that's your worst pick, I think you're doing okay.
Yeah.
I have another team later that it's this one. It's either waxing that ass or that future team or my favorite of the 4 that I looked at. And waxing that ass, that should be worth like a 1 point. We're talking about weird home field advantages. Name advantage should be worth something.
I think you just like saying waxing that ass.
I think so too.
do I like saying waxing that ass? I'm not sure. I think so.
I mean, no, I agree. I can't pick anything else apart from there. That team is great. I think
I'd be hitting the Mr. Miyagi wax on, wax off gifts every time my player scored a touchdown. I'd be getting them all in
for sure.
Make or break pick. It's Zay Flowers. Ryan kind of mentioned Terry McLaurin with the injury. And it's just always nerve-wracking to start the year with an injured player that you're counting on. And so Zay Flowers for $4 won. I think it's probably not the value, but it's a good price for him. Like, you didn't overpay or anything. You didn't get Ricky Fever, so that's great. I think you killed at running back. More on that later. But we already talked about the big 2 at the top. You need Zay to be a legit contributor, especially early on. Luckily, I think he will be. Camp height is exactly what you want right now. They're saying all the things you want to hear. He's got a great QB, former MVP, somebody who's looking to, shut up all the people that want to talk that talk. And he is definitely someone who has that mentality. If you've seen his tweets before, new offense that should be passing more, and first round draft capital for a wide receiver has really good tendencies. Like the track record on him, usually is pretty solid. So I think, between tape, draft capital, hype, I think you're in a good spot.
Yeah, I have no hesitancy starting Zay Flowers in week 1. I think he's going to be productive right away.
Me too.
And I agree. And you might be hesitant because of OBJ and Bateman and Andrews, but I don't think you should be. I think you can trust Zay Flowers from week 1. And we can't say that about most rookies at any position.
No. Then the last one is the pick that will win you the title. And I went with Rashad Penny. For $1. We're big on small sample sizes, and when he's healthy, he's shown that he can do it. So you need a big dog to stay healthy. He's in the best offense to play in for a running back, arguably. In my opinion, it's the clear front runner, but I know other people would say something else. And when healthy, he has shown, like I said, he can do it. He ended the year in 2021 4 out of 5 times, scoring 19 or more points. And he doesn't even catch passes. Like, he's just that explosive of a runner. So if he stays healthy, I think he would be the reason why you won the championship. Or even if he's just healthy at the end of the season,
I agree. He would have been my choice there too. So I'm glad you brought him up. I can't add anything. I'm excited for any team that I get Penny on because it's so late. You can get him so late as your RB3 or 4, and if he pops, you might have a top 24 guy, and that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And you don't even need him because you have those 2 studs at running back.
Pairing him on a team like this where you got those guys that you can trust and you can just have the luxury of flexing him is phenomenal. It really is.
Do we want to say more about Higby other than you might be looking at tight end anytime you get a chance? Maybe waiver wires always be checking.
I mean, I think you could just ride him for the first few games of the season without Cup, right? In your guys' weekly ranks, he'd probably be inside the top 10 without Cup.
Yeah.
So for now, ride him, and your first drop can be Devin Singletary, and you can go pick up whatever tight end's hot, flavor of the week when you need a tight end.
More than Joshua Kelly?
I feel like
I'd rather save this for another time, but
I feel like I'd rather have the handcuff for Austin Eckler than the potential starting back if something happens to Dameon Pierce in Houston.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just not a big Devin Singletary guy.
That's all I got.
My turn?
Your turn.
My turn. All right. All right. So we got a lot of wood to chop. Quarterback, Josh Allen. Locked in top 3 quarterback, high pass volume offense, rushing upside. He's my QB3. He's also drafted a second quarterback, which I don't think you really need to do in this league if you drafted Josh Allen. But Jared Goff's an excellent QB2. Good offense, good weapons. I've got it ranked as my QB16. Moving to running back, I love Rachaad White. I know he had some inefficiencies as a runner last year, and as a rookie, he was a rookie behind the most injury-depleted offensive line in the league. But he was the most efficient running back in that offense, which gives me a little bit of hope there. He was an RB2 in every game in which he's had 10 or more carries, which was 5 games, and 2 of those he was top 10. And over the last 7 games, he averaged 5 receptions per game, and he finished the season with 50 receptions while playing most of the season behind Leonard Fournette. So I think that's where I really like Rachaad White, is he doesn't have competition in that backfield, even though some people think Sean Tucker's competition. He's not. And he's not.
I had some dude call me a casual for saying he's not good. I was like, okay, man, you got me.
Conversation's over.
He went undrafted. He went to Syracuse, got undrafted, but okay, yeah. He's definitely not good.
I don't think he's a threat at all to Rachaad White, and he's any significance. And we're going to get the 60, 70 receptions from Rachaad White.
Yeah, that's the bread and butter right there for his success, I think. If he can get that, he could be 3.5 yards per carry, and he'll still be a good fantasy RB.
Exactly, yeah. He's my RB 14, so I'm pretty high on Rachaad White.
That's a little spiky.
Yeah. Dameon Pierce, the workload should be there. I haven't drafted him much, but he's my RB 18. And then on the bench, you have Ezekiel Elliott, who I don't think has a lot of upside. Even if Ramondre went down, I think Zeke is mostly washed at this point. Zach Charbonnet is also on the bench. Could get a decent role, but it's still Kenneth Walker's backfield. Definitely great upside if anything happens to Walker, though. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy holding him on the bench. I also kind of like Chuba Hubbard. I think he could end up working into that backfield a little bit more than expected. And he's been a decent fill-in when given the opportunity. So he's one of these guys I like to have on my bench. You also get Jeff Wilson on IR. I don't know if he's going to play at all this year, but might as well hold him on your IR for now and just see what the reports come out over the next few weeks. Just see what happens. Wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, stud wide receiver 1. I know some people are drafting Jamar Chase at 101. I'm sticking with Justin Jefferson. Calvin Ridley. I've been coming around on Ridley a little bit after starting the summer, really down on him, but there's just been so many positive reports. It's really hard to ignore at this point. With that said, he's still 29 years old, hasn't played football in 2 years. He hasn't had a productive season in 3 years. And he's on a new team with established weapons. His ADP has leaked into the back end of the second round. I can't get there at that price. I could do it in like round 5, but 2 or 3 is still too early for me. But I think he's a fine wide receiver 2 for you. He'll have a solid season. Good offense, good quarterback. Chris Godwin. I think he's going to be just fine with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. I've drafted him a bunch in round 5, round 6, even slides to round 7 sometimes. He's my wide receiver 17. So if he's your wide receiver 3 on this team, I'm really thrilled about that.
Yeah, I agree. Sitting pretty there with Godwin at 3. And I'm surprised you said some nice things about Ridley. So that was nice to hear.
Yeah, going around a little bit. I've moved him up the rankings.
That's good.
It's so good.
And I think the strength at wide receiver keeps going beyond those 3 to Sky Moore. I love Sky Moore coming out of Western Michigan last year. He had a rough rookie season, and I'll admit, I doubted him for a little while late last year, early in the off season. I had some chances to buy him on the cheap, and I passed, and now I'm really regretting that. But when we think about it, coming out early from a small school like Western Michigan and then being thrust into a high-octane Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes offense, it kind of makes sense for that guy to struggle to get going early in his career. Now he's had a full off season. He's had a ton of positive reports coming out of training camp and preseason, looking like he's locked into a starting spot. So I'm fully back on the Sky Moore bandwagon. He's my wide receiver 39. Nico Collins, I don't really have a whole lot to say about Nico Collins. I guess he's the wide receiver 1 in Houston. We got Mechie there, who I guess he started off kind of strong in camp, but really haven't heard anything about him since then. And Tank Dell could be the reason why we haven't heard a lot about.
He's taken over.
Yeah, but I don't know how big a role he's going to be able to play at 155, 165 pounds. So do you guys have any strong takes on Nico Collins? Because I really don't.
I'd rather talk about Sky Moore.
Yeah, talk about Sky Moore.
I would as well. Dennis, you can go first though.
Well, Yards per Twitter account posting name your starting lineup from each division in the AFC West. I had Sky at flex. I really think he's for that division. You know what I mean? I really think he's going to have an opportunity to blossom. He had good tape. There wasn't a lot, coming out of college because of that was for free. But, I just think he has the skill set to thrive in that kind of offense. Ryan, earplugs. I don't believe in Tony.
It's okay.
And so I think
I understand. I'll never take earplugs on that.
Nico Collins.
Good to go for week 1.
I'm going to go trade for him in my main league.
He's chronically questionable.
Yeah. As the guy who has to do wide receiver injury reports for Rotoballer every week, he was on there pretty much every week last year. So
and you still like him?
I can't quit him.
I can't quit him, man. I can't quit him. But and I will say what Alex brought up about Sky Moore for last season is super important, and I agree completely. The pressure to succeed coming out of a small school with Patrick Mahomes on a team that outside of Juju, there wasn't a lot of known commodities or people that you could believe in to really start to catch passes and do stuff in Kansas City last year. And I think that's more prevalent this year as Tony could profile as the one in some people's eyes. And it really could be Sky Moore. So spending $5 on a $200 auction to get a chance to have him. He's one of the few guys that's locked into a starting role. The Justin Ross truthers might be sad because he might sit out week 1 just to be a healthy scratch, because they have so many wide receivers on that roster. But Moore is one of the few guys that's locked in. He's going to play no matter what. He's going to have a role. So if you're betting on any KC wide receiver, the best one to bet on is Sky Moore. I take Tony because I have a problem and I can't quit him. But I've also got Sky Moore in some places now, and I'm happy to have him on my bench to see what might be able to happen this year, especially in redraft leagues. He's the perfect bench stash. You can watch him for 3 weeks, and if he does nothing, he didn't cost you a ton in a draft, probably a 13th, 14th round pick. He's your first drop for a guy off the waiver wire. So those are the types of guys I like to take late and have the high upside to potentially produce.
the community agrees. Like his ADP has risen a ton in
it's more like the
multiple rounds. Yeah.
Oh wow, really? See, most of the drafts I've
from
done,
beginning of the year to now, it's insane.
The last few drafts I did this past week, he's still gone in like the 12th, 13th round area, and I've gotten him in those areas. So it may have caught up mostly on like draft Twitter and stuff like that, but his ADP has definitely risen. I don't know if I'd be as high to take him in the 8th personally. That's a little rich for me.
I've taken him in the 9th a few times, and I've been okay with it.
As a wide receiver 3, 4 for those rosters, pretty much.
Yeah, 4 at highest.
Yeah.
I might be sweating when I go to sleep in the night before, but I still don't think it's going to be terrible. So I think he's do you think that my main question is when I bet on the KC wide receiver this year, I'm trying to bet on the highest upside. Do you think that he has a higher upside than a fully healthy Kadarius Toney?
Yes.
That's my question.
Yes, okay. Because he's got the full profile.
Spectrum. Yeah, the full spectrum of he can play.
He's not just your gadget guy.
I don't feel like you can say a fully healthy Toney, though. Like, are we turning off injuries? Like, how is that happening?
I get that. I mean? Like, to me, if any of my fantasy players make it through 14 to 15 games, I'm pretty happy. Most players are going to miss a game or two here or there. This is a rough league, especially with an extra game every year. So, if he gets to 14 or 15 games, would you still want Sky Moore in terms of high upside, Dennis, or would you want Kadarius Toney?
Probably Toney. Just I feel like they'd be more creative touchdown wise as far as like the weird stuff that they do with like jet sweeps and the motion pop pass kind of thing, because he is very good with the ball in his hand. So is Sky, but I think Toney just kind of has that extra twitch that few players have.
Yeah, super fast for a guy with a ton of lower body injuries too, which is pretty incredible.
Like Sky Moore is just like more compactly built, more like a running back, and I think that helps him in that sense. And so when Toney's out, Sky probably gets those touches. So,
I'll take 12 games of Sky Moore over a full season of Kadarius Toney.
I love that.
I don't know if I can do that, but I understand it. I'm not going to sit here and
I don't want my wide receiver to be a gadget guy, to be reliant on that type of touches.
I get that. Short kings, small samples. Short kings, small samples. That's why I can't quit Kadarius Toney.
All right, let's move to tight end.
Yep.
We got Pat Freiermuth. Top 10 tight end. Good offense. I'm starting to believe in the Steelers' offense. I know we did some of these shows earlier in the summer, and I was really down on Kenny Pickett, really down on the Steelers' offense. But all the reports coming from training camp have indicated that Kenny Pickett has taken the next step, and I'm buying it. I'm believing it. I got Freiermuth as my tight end 9. Overall, I think this team has a chance. It's got a stud quarterback, stud wide receiver 1. Actually, really, like we talked about, really very strong wide receiver core, top to bottom.
Yes.
If you hit on Rachaad White and Pat Freiermuth is like your top 8, top 6 tight end, you can absolutely contend in this league with this team.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think he's got good depth like at running back, because I know that's not like the biggest strength, but Charbonnet, like I know we all believe Ken Walker is going to take most of the touches. We're not too worried, but Charbonnet I think Charbonnet is going to have weekly value at the very least after the first few weeks. And then if anything, God forbid, happens to Walker, he shoots into the top 20 every single week on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So, I like his bench stashes. I even like Gus Edwards. Like we know J.K. Dobbins has an injury history. I think Gus Edwards would take most of the carries if something happened to J.K. Dobbins. So like he's got the right bench pieces and the star power at the top to make a deep run into the playoffs.
Yeah, I really like this team. I like it a lot. I think they spent where they should spend, and they got guys they can rely on. I just want to take a short second to say welcome to the Kenny Pickett Club. He's my highest exposure best ball on underdog quarterback. Just because he goes so late.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's free.
Actually, so when you look at the draft results for this team versus the actual roster, the draft results said they drafted Dalton Kincaid and they drafted Gus Edwards. I don't see those guys on the roster still.
Oh, I got it on here when I'm looking at it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I see Kincaid, actually. I see Kincaid. I don't see Gus Edwards, and he's on the waiver wire.
Oh,
yeah,
well, it
looks like they dropped him for Chuba Hubbard.
Okay,
and I'd rather have Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, Yeah. Especially,
I agree.
You threw me off when you said Gus Edwards. I was like, I don't remember him being on this team.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at just draft results and none of
he's on the draft results. Yeah,
happened. So live updates for this league, even in your personalized.
They drafted last night and they've already making moves.
Look at that. All right,
I agree. I think Chuba.
I'd rather have Chuba. Yeah,
he's a top 5 handcuff in my opinion.
He's got no competition behind Miles Sanders, whereas Gus Edwards, still have Justice Hill. We don't even know Justice Hill might be the RB2 there.
Hey, listen, reports. Justin, you want to talk about small sample sizes? We've seen one good game of Justice Hill, so welcome to the club if you believe that.
We've seen, 3 from Gus Edwards? So.
Hey. Had a good season.
As many people in this league could probably contend to, he's one of those people that's burned me. We all have those guys, and Justice Hill, he's never again.
Yeah.
I feel that. It's okay. All right, Alex, you good?
Good.
All right. I'm going to get on to the most frustrating team in this league, in my opinion. You made my brain twist into a pretzel when I read this, and I know it's auction, so things get weird. But, dude, I don't know what's going on. Speed God 2.0. You might have been on speed when you drafted this roster. Like, good freaking Lord, man. And I will preface with saying you've got some good players. I like some of the guys on this team, but the philosophy of your roster construction drives me nuts. Mahomes, $29. I think he's the most expensive quarterback in this league, if I looked at it correctly. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but no one's going to argue against that. He's a top 3 quarterback. In those top 3, someone's going to finish number 1. It could easily be Mahomes. To back him up, which I don't even think you need to do, you spend $1 on Kirk Cousins and $1 on Russell Wilson.
No, definitely not 2.
What are we doing? Why? Why did we need to do that? Like, I get having some injury fears for any player and you want to back up. Like, I'm never going to argue against somebody that does that, but 2 of them, we'll move on. You have a total of 2, count them 2 running backs. Josh Jacobs, I love Josh Jacobs. I don't think you overpaid for him personally. I think he can max out as a top 5 running back this season. That's my personal opinion. $46 ain't that bad. Najee Harris, good too, $27. Don't hate it. Nothing bad. Where's the rest? Where's the rest of your roster, man? What happened? Najee Harris just came off of a foot injury where he had a plate removed from his foot, and Josh Jacobs just came off of a 300-plus touch season, and he's going to get fed again. You don't know what's going to happen with these guys. You got to have more than 2 running backs. That's rough, man. Like, and I know the waiver wire, you can find some gold on there, but Gus Edwards just got dropped. Go pick him up.
Go pick up Gus
on this roster.
Drop Russ right now and pick up any running back. Because how do you not have RB3?
You might keep Russ. Look at some of these other guys.
Like, how do you not have an RB3?
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, there's some decent running backs on the waiver wire. Gus Edwards, Josh Kelly. We talked about it. Somebody else must have dropped him. Zach Moss. Maybe he starts for the Colts.
But as a 3 for your team, yeah, do it.
Zamir White.
Get the handcuff.
Bye weeks happen. Like, you have to have more than 2 running backs.
Yeah, that's another guy. What's going on?
Come on, Speed God.
Wide receiver room's a bit better. You got 5, so you're good there in depth.
Yeah.
And you got some good ones. And I think you got some great value on it. One in particular. Actually, 2 in particular.
Yeah.
Diggs at $57. You're gonna pay up for a potential top 5 guy. You're perfectly fine. Kirk at 4. Great value, I think. I mean, Alex, I know that you said you're a little bit higher on Calvin Ridley, but Christian Kirk for $4 seems like probably one of the best values in this whole draft.
Absolutely.
I agree there, 100%.
Yep,
and that's what Zay Flowers went for.
Right. And I love Zay Flowers. I'd rather have Christian Kirk.
Absolutely.
Speaking of rookies, JSN for $3. I get the wrist injury. Dude's already practicing, for God's sakes. A couple days in a row now. So JSN for $3 as your 3. You could potentially get to play him week 1, and you better hope, because you've only got 2 running backs. You need some flexes. So last 2 bench spots, Lazard and Chark for $1. I think Lazard, honestly, for $1 is a pretty good value. I don't know if you guys agree with that. That's fine. Okay, I got to look there for a second. For $1, Azure 4, Lazard was frustrating enough in Green Bay, but at least he doesn't have to be the one now in New York. So I think that's going to open him up to kind of show a little bit of why people got excited about him last year as the one in Green Bay, and he can do a little bit more as the two in New York. Chark, injured right now still. I don't think he's practicing, so you may even have to figure that out if you were planning on flexing him early in the season, but for $1, perfectly fine. You got Ingram for $2. That's a great price to pay for potential top 6 tight end in Evan Ingram. You got 3 defenses, all for $1. Great values, sure. Why the hell do you need 3? Bills, Packers, Browns. I mean, Bills, I get. Bills are a great defense. Got a rough opening schedule. Why you playing them every week? Dude, I'm trying to my best to be nice about this, but this roster drives me freaking batty. Someone please take over for a second so I can process how to be nice.
The Browns play Cincy week 1. The Packers play Bears week 1. And then
I don't want any part of that. The Jets, Monday Night Football.
You didn't even pick good guys to string.
No, I'd find a defense right now off the waivers. There's probably a better one.
It's like they started the auction off okay. They got Mahomes, Jacobs, Diggs, Mark Andrews, Christian Kirk for great value, and then
what the hell happened?
Forgot to draft the rest of your team. Go to bed and hand the phone to somebody else.
Did you give this to your significant other? Because if so, I get it. All right. But I made mine join my fantasy leagues so that way if I had to delegate, she knew what she was doing. This is rough, man. The obvious thing here is 2 running backs. You've got to go get more. Drop these defenses. You can keep one, obviously, if you want to start them. Drop Russell Wilson. Drop Kirk Cousins. I mean, at $1, I think Cousins is a great value because I think he could be a top 12 guy, but you don't need him. You're never going to play him over Pat Mahomes, or else you're crazy if you do that. So you've got pieces to drop. Go load up. Go trade someone Kirk Cousins for something. You can't trade a defense half the time in fantasy. So
no.
Dude, drives me crazy. Give me some thoughts on this roster so that way I'm not the only one badmouthing.
Yeah, I mean, I want to have some hope for this team because you got a nice foundation in the Mahomes, Jacobs, Diggs, Andrews. But judging by the draft strategy, there's no way this team doesn't get fucked up during the season.
Oh, my God.
you know this guy is making some boneheaded trade or he's dropping Patrick Mahomes on his bye week so he can pick up a 4th defense. Got to get that 4th defense. I got to drop Mahomes.
Thank you for taking the pressure off because you sound way worse than I did.
Stupid move is happening with this team. And if it wasn't for that, if I had any confidence in the manager of this team, I'd say this team can be repaired with the waiver wire, make a few trades. You've got those foundational pieces. You can make a run. But I have no confidence that they're going to manage it properly.
Revisit this in a week and tell me if they make any moves, please. This is gonna keep me up at night, dude. This is like nightmare rosters going into the season. Dennis, what you got, man? Anything positive?
I mean, what I like Ingram and Chark for both cheap. It sucks they're on the same team though. You might be the mark in the league, man. I just think you're the guy that they sweet is this pick.
Yeah. So they gave us a list of 5 managers who have never won a championship, and surprise, this guy's on the list.
This is Taco, isn't it? This is Taco from the league. Definitely Taco.
David Jones.
Right. Subscribe to Yards Per. Read our articles.
Yes.
However, he's got some speed because apparently he beat Hoffman in a 40-yard dash on draft day.
Bro. Hey.
Maybe he's his own RB3.
Yeah, can he play himself? Because he might have to at this rate.
Can you sign with Indianapolis? They need a running back.
They do. What was the 40 time? That's what I want to know. Was it sub 4.4?
It better be good.
Thursday's done crazy as shit.
Yeah, he is crazy. He'll pay millions to save a whale that died anyways and not JT. So if you're looking for a cool 100,000, he'll probably put you on the roster. So, man, dude, advice, keep your key pieces. Mahomes, Jacobs, Harris, Diggs, Kirk, JSN. and friggin' evening. I'm sorry.
At least
drop two defenses. Drop Russell Wilson. Go get Jacobs backup. At the very least, go get Zamir White just in case. For God's sakes, like there are players on the waiver wire that are going to make more sense than what's on this roster. And obviously, Alex can see what's actually happened update-wise, and he hasn't told me you've made anything. So,
I don't think so.
Unless you're holding out on me, but I doubt it.
Still got 3 defense. Yeah, no, the team hasn't changed. They're all drafted players.
Marion Joseph. I'm sorry, man. Listen, I'm usually super positive about most of these teams to the point where I get looks of doubt and like, what the hell are you talking about from these fine gentlemen? But this is freaking horrible. Like, you got to figure this out and fix this. I'm very excited to see if I can revisit this like halfway through the year. It's either going to be the world's biggest train wreck or I'll put my foot in my mouth and you figured it out. But I'm going to bet the latter on that one. I'm done here.
All right. So that's me. We got the Irie Ballers. I'm trying to figure out. It looks like they definitely dropped Gerald Everett. And I'm trying to figure out their other drop if someone can help me with that one.
Oh, I like.
But going over, yeah. So at quarterback, he's got Dak. We already mentioned great value there. Love that move.
$3.
Right. Running back, he's got Dalvin Cook, Cam Akers, Breece Hall, Kyron Williams, potentially Jonathan Taylor. So really exciting RB room. And then he's got at wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, Devonta Smith, Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore, Adam Thielen, who I like in that Carolina wide receiver room a lot. So I really like his wide receivers. And then at tight end's got Juwan Johnson, everyone's favorite kind of breakout, third, fourth year guy. Cole Kmet, I'm not high on, but as a Bears fan, but he, other people are, and he's a decent stab in the dark to pair with Juwan Johnson. Not your best room by far for your team, but not horrible. Overall, I like the team. As far as some of the superlatives, shocking for the people in this stream, but it's DJ Moore for $12.
I agree completely.
Loved DJ Moore. He was, to shout out yards per again, he was my guy in Plant Your Flag. I think he's going to push for a top 12 wide receiver finish. His career finishes in half-point PPR. Wide receiver 39, which was his rookie year. Mm-hmm. Wide receiver 18, wide receiver 20, wide receiver 19, wide receiver 22. Yep. And think about his QB play.
And now we just got a quarterback upgrade.
Yes.
Like his whole life, he's never played with a guy this good.
Yeah, and you don't see a bunch of people touting how good of a passer Justin Fields is, but he's much better than everyone he's played with by far.
Right. Like, go back to college, bro. Look what happened when he had Olave, Garrett Wilson. Like, he put up numbies. Anyway.
He was throwing the lawn chairs last year.
Right. Like, he literally – they keep posting clips of, like, Packers stuff. And, like, he had 2 long touchdown passes against the Jair Alexander. One was Equanimeous St. Brown. One was N'Keal Harry, who can't even make a roster right now.
He got signed today by Minnesota.
Wow. Good for him.
Just the practice squad.
Hey, that's team, man. That's more than we got.
Good for him. But yeah, I think DJ Moore, especially combined with his other wide receivers like CD and Deontay and Devonta, like, hell yeah. That's a wide receiver room I love.
Yeah, perfect mix of like upside and consistency at your wide receiver spot. That's definitely like the backbone of this team. You've also got the Dak and CeeDee Lamb stack. Like, I'm not a big Dak drafter this year. I think he's a little pricey in redraft, but $3. Not for you, it ain't. Not for you, it ain't. And to stack him with CeeDee Lamb, we all know how much he hyper targets his one. He did it with Amari Cooper. He did it last year with Lamb. Fantastic. I want to know your guys' thoughts on the RB room, because that's where my question marks are for this team. I know it's nice, but he's going to have a hell of a headache with Breece and Dalvin Cook once Breece is pretty healthy. And then is Jonathan Taylor for 16 a value in this league? Well, I don't know.
Let me get to some of my superlatives, because they're shocking all running backs. So Cam Akers, $18. That's my worst pick. I'm not a Cam Akers guy, but more than anything else, it's the other running backs on your own team. Cook went for 15. Rather have him. Dobbins went for 9. Rather have him. Monty went for 8. Would rather have him. James Conner would rather have him for 15. I just don't want any parts of this Ram offense besides a healthy Cooper Kupp and maybe Tyler Higbee. And I wrote that pre-draft. Pre-pod. That's not even because of what we've talked about. So yeah, I don't love Cam Akers really for that value. I think your make or break pick is I kind of cheated Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook. I think it's interesting you went with both. I don't think many people are. But if one does, like if Hall re-injures his knee, God, I don't even like saying those words together.
No, don't
Cook is insane. But anyway, you spent $35 on this backfield, which compared to some of these other RB1 type running backs that went in the 40s and stuff like that, that could be really good value if one ends up taking it. However, it's going to be kind of hard to identify if you can start one or the other. I think there is a spectrum of possibilities where you can start both. One is running back, one is a flex, and I think you could be okay. And I truly believe Breece by the end of the year, the second half of the year, is going to be back to who he was and someone that you can 100% start every week. But it also could be very much of a quagmire where you just don't really know who's going off each week, kind of like a couple years ago, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones kind of situation.
Yeah.
And then the pick that wins you the title is JT for $16, right? This is the guy to talk about in the draft just because you don't know. Nobody knows. You probably got like at least a $33 discount on him if he plays after this IR stint, and you paid for 33 cents on the dollar, but also like he might not play at all except for that last game and then play one snap so he can say he played and then he re-injured himself and then he's out again because then he's a free agent. So I agree with you. I think this RB room is an absolute just clusterfuck. Like you don't know what to expect out of them. So what are you guys thinking about the RB room?
Yeah, I think you hurt yourself by also handcuffing your own running back so you don't even have the upside that you can plug a guy into your lineup. Like I don't know if you were going to handcuff. I mean, you do have it with Jerome Ford, but like if Cam Akers goes down, you're just downgrading a running back to Kyron Williams. You're not getting. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you didn't have, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a handcuff running back. Like if you drafted Tyler Algier instead and Bijan goes down, now you have Tyler Algier as an extra option to your running back run that you can start. Because if you're going to draft like a Cam Akers who has like no ceiling in this situation that he's in, and if you're going to draft both Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall, like you're betting against yourself by drafting both of those guys. You got to commit to one of them. Which one of them is going to go off and have the big year? Bet on that guy and give your team the highest upside. Now you're playing it safe, and that just doesn't work out.
Yeah, when we talk about offenses that have the potential to give you 2 top 24 running backs, that doesn't mean you want them both on your squad, because that makes it so hard. You either pigeonhole yourself into starting the wrong one, or you have to start both. And then what if it just doesn't work out for one of the guys that week and he's the RB50? You could have played somebody else and given yourself more flexibility by just betting on one. I mean, $20 and $15 in this league, I think, are really good prices for both of those guys. But on the same roster, it's so tough. Like it would drive me bonkers trying to figure out which one to play each week. And I don't know if I'd ever have the confidence unless it's late in the season and I know it's a good matchup to start both and be like, okay, this is the week that both of these guys probably score around 15 half PPR points. So I think that's where you're going to, if you had to trade one of them, who would you trade right now? Because I think he can get something for one of these guys if he trades them to boost his roster.
Yeah, I'm going to keep Breece Hall. He's going to give you the upside. He has the highest upside. He's going to catch passes. He's going to be, if he's healthy fully, he's going to be explosive in the running game. He's going to be explosive in the passing game. He's going to get goal line work.
Yeah, I agree.
Is he trading for like a running back for a running back swap? Because I don't know if he can afford to lose the depth.
I think he could pair. He's got a deep receiver room. We talked about that. He could pair with one of his bench receivers and get a running back. Because in my opinion, Akers can at least be his 2. I know it's not, and I know it's your least favorite value pick, but if he's the 2 to start the season, you leave Brees on the bench for a week or 2 until you figure out what's going to happen, and then you get another competent starter for Dalvin Cook plus, and you don't know what that guy could be. He's shopping around the league. You might get better than you thought. Okay. And then once Brees pops, then you've got Brees, you've got Cam Akers, you've got the guy you traded for, and you have a 3-headed stable plus a returning Jonathan Taylor could propel you, after week 4, 5, 6 to the top of your league with how deep your wide receiver room is and the value that you saved on quarterback and stuff like that.
You just got to get through the early part of the season with those running backs, and I think you'll be okay as long as Jonathan Taylor comes back and plays, and as long as Brees Hall is Brees Hall.
And then the last position. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I just said I think he will be Brees Hall once we get far enough into the season.
I think so too.
He's supposed to play week 1, so that's good news for you. The last position is just the tight end room. You kept Juwan Johnson over Gerald Everett, which is fine. I think I would have kept Everett, but I know a lot of people really like Juwan Johnson. And then you also have Kmet. I've already mentioned I'm not a huge fan, but he is like his floor is what, like tight end 15, 16. Like it's not like he's going to be at 0 for you. So break class in case of emergency. You got somebody.
He's very Tyler Higbee-ish.
I think Higbee outproduces him. I would take that bet any day of the week.
Yeah, but I mean that by saying like he's one of the few guys where like you're not excited to play him, but you won't get a 0 most.
Okay.
Like.
Okay.
And Higbee won't do that, especially like if Cup's in there, Higbee will get you 5, and it's like, okay. But without Cup, he's got a higher ceiling.
Yeah, he's Higbee with target competition, which we don't want.
Yes.
That's very true.
Yeah, so that would be a position I'd be looking to add at like waiver wire style. Like if you see an opportunity, good matchup, injuries, that kind of thing. And then, like we mentioned, you might want to try and tinker with your running back situation because you have players that can have value, just maybe not all on the same team.
Yep.
But wide receivers killed it. All right, Alex.
Man. Awesome.
All right. Next team is 4.7x off the couch. Quarterback.
I bet that's a 40
That's
time.
got to be his 40 time.
That's got to be.
That's not bad. 4.7 is not bad, dude.
Okay.
You can play in the league with that.
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense now. I gotcha. All right. Jalen Hurts, a quarterback, absolute stud, dual threat quarterback. My QB2, but he's more of like a 1A, 1B situation with him and Mahomes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We also have a second quarterback on this team, though, is Tua Tagovailoa.
Good value.
Only concerns here with Tua are concussions, but he's your QB2 here, so it doesn't really matter. 2 explosive wide receivers on his offense. Should be a fun offense in Miami. So I like Tua there. And like they said, great value. Travis Etienne is your RB1, one of the most explosive runners in the NFL. I expect his targets are going to go up. This is a guy who caught 100 passes and targets from Trevor Lawrence, his current quarterback. So we know he's got it in his game. That skill set doesn't just go away. So I expect he's going to get involved in the passing game more than he was last year. And I really don't think Tank Bigsby is a significant threat to his workload. Then we got Pacheco, Isaiah Pacheco. He was productive late in the year last year. From week 10 through the Super Bowl, he averaged 12 fantasy points per game. He scored double-digit points in 10 of the last 12. Top 24 running back in 6 of the last 8. He's going to get the early down work. He's going to get the goal line work, which is really all he needs in this offense that scored 61 touchdowns last year. I'm definitely higher on Pacheco than consensus. He's my RB21 for the season.
Oh, wow.
Then we get Jahmyr Gibbs. I haven't drafted a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs this year. His 3rd round, early 4th round ADP, it's been too much for a guy who's going to cede most of the rushing work and the goal line carries to David Montgomery. I mean, he's an exciting player. Don't get me wrong. He's going to be fun to have on your team. But I think he's going to return closer to like 6th round value. especially in a league like this where I believe it's half PPR. So you don't even get the full reward for what he brings to the table. The bench, I don't know. I feel like the bench is a little strange with Jerick McKinnon, Devon Achane, Rico Dowdle. Don't have much to say about those guys. They're fine. Wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I talked about him on the show we did last night, but I think Amon-Ra is ready to ascend into the elite tier of wide receivers. I think he's got 2021 Cooper Kupp in his range of outcomes.
Ooh. Say it louder for the people in the back.
Absolutely.
I love Amon-Ra. That's spicy.
he's a target hog. He's explosive after the catch. And people bring up concerns about not scoring enough touchdowns, but dude was 8th in red zone targets last year. I mean, a few more of those end up in the end zone, and we're looking at double-digit touchdowns on top of the receiving yards, the receptions. He's my wide receiver 4 this year, and I would draft him as high as 4th or 5th overall if I needed to.
He had 7 times he was tackled inside the 5-yard line.
Yeah. I felt like there was no player that I saw tackled at the 1, basically.
And he's really good after the catch. That's unlucky.
Yeah. It's just bad luck. Exactly. It's bad luck. That's not going to carry over to this year.
No.
Touchdown regression is coming, and a huge season is coming. Amon-Ra St. Brown. We've also got Tyler Lockett on this team. I still think he can put up a solid wide receiver 2 season. He's finished as a wide receiver 16 or better in each of the last 5 years, so he's still got plenty of juice to have at least one more really productive season. He's my wide receiver 25. Drake London. I love London in Dynasty for the long term. The peripheral metrics from his rookie season are really good, but a lot of questions at quarterback. Still a run-centric offense with other talented weapons in the passing game like Pitts and Bijan. I really haven't drafted much of Drake London this year, but I do love me some Marvin Mims, who's on the bench here. He adds that explosive element to the Broncos offense that was really missing last year. This guy's a playmaker, 4.38 speed, great after the catch. It sounds like Jerry Jeudy's going to miss maybe even the first month or so of the season.
Yeah.
So so Mims is going to be leaned on. He's going to be the wide receiver 2 in that offense. And he may play well enough while Judy's out where he remains heavily involved in that offense, even upon Judy's return. He doesn't just go back to being just the wide receiver 3 in that offense. He may have a bigger role by the time Judy comes back. So I got him ranked at wide receiver 41. Then we got Romeo Doubs. I'm really not a Romeo Doubs fan. I think he's gonna lose snaps pretty early in the year to Jaden Reed eventually. So.
Oh, and he's hurt right now, too. He's dealing with a hamstring issue of his own.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, not great.
Nope. Tight end, Greg Dulcich. I liked Dulcich a lot coming into the summer, but his preseason usage versus Adam Troutman was a little bit concerning. I think it was enough for me to move him down the rankings a little bit. Maybe that's because I kind of feel like I learned my lesson last year with Broncos tight end preseason usage. I was all in. I was locked in on Albert O. I just ignored the fact that he was playing into the 4th quarter of preseason games, and obviously that blew up in my face. Obviously, this is a completely different situation, but it does remind me of that. I think we do need to take preseason usage seriously, so I'm not real confident with Dulcich as my tight end 1. But overall, looking at this team, I think this is another solid team. There's a lot of solid teams in this league. Stud quarterback. I'm happy with Travis Etienne as my anchor running back, supported by Pacheco and Jahmyr Gibbs. And you got Cooper Kupp. I mean, I'm on Ross St. Brown at wide receiver. Decent depth there as well. And if
my brain hurt there for a second. I was like, wait, what? There's no Kupp here.
If Dulcich hits, you've got a complete team. Yeah. Top to bottom, every position will be really good for you. What do you guys think about this team?
I have a couple thoughts. So one, I think you're too low on Achane.
I agree.
Just because they didn't bring in any other running backs. Jeff Wilson injury, pathway to get him some touches, and he is so electrically fast that he could produce a role.
I'm fine with him. Keep on your bench. Yeah.
Yeah. 2, I'm a little bit more worried about the wide receiver room than I think maybe you are. I would kind of be looking maybe if Achane does get a hot start, see if you can flip him, or maybe Pacheco for a wide receiver that you can count on a little bit more reliably. Just because I just don't know with Lockett and London. But I do think that for this team that you're going to be fine because you're good elsewhere, especially with that advantage with Hurts. But I just like to build more through wide receiver. And then the last one is I agree 100% with Dulcich. And I love Greg the third leg. Like, I think he's awesome. I'd be very worried starting him week 1 as my tight end.
So I'm going to fight for Dulcich a little bit. I've got Dulcich.
I love Dulcich.
I've still got him ranked inside my top 10 in half PPR. I do. And I had him too high originally, and I had bumped him down a little bit with the Troutman stuff. But
that's bumping him down?
Oh. I had him too high. However,
right, Alex.
I will say the Troutman thing doesn't bother me that much. Troutman has had plenty of opportunity to be the guy with Sean Payton, mind you, and he has never done it. Whether it be injury, whether it be he just doesn't do it on the field. Juwan Johnson took over last year because he's just a better receiver than Troutman is. Troutman's going to be out there to help pass block and run block. He's good at that. He's a good blocker. But Dulcich is going to be out there to catch the ball.
But if that's going to keep Dulcich off the field on first and second downs when they're running
but is it
action,
with Judy hurt? Is it with Judy hurt? Because do you think they're going to play 3 deep into their wide receiver room that's already depleted? Dulcich is going to find his way onto the field. He's going to make the most of his opportunities. There has been really positive stuff that Peyton has said about him. And I think that he has the explosive ability, vertical threat over the middle, to where he only needs 3 catches in a game to give you a good, productive tight end week for fantasy. So I'm not as scared. As a $1 bid with your second to last pick as your tight end 1, I'm not worried. I think that you are going to be just fine. Tight ends outside of the top 2, 3, or 4 guys, it's always rocky. You're going to get crappy weeks no matter what. But I think Dulcich gives you the chance to have those high-end weeks compared to some of these other guys like Higby and these lower-ranked, tight end ones where they're probably not going to get you inside the top 5 most weeks. I think Dulcich is going to have a couple of 3, 4 of those weeks where he reaches that top 5, maybe even top 3, and then over the year proves that he needs to be on the field because Troutman's a jag, and Dulcich was a good rookie that earned targets, which is the biggest metric for these tight ends to start breaking out earlier in their careers.
Would you guys drop like a Romeo Dobbs and pick up Gerald Everett just to have in case?
That's what I'm trying to say. I agree with everything Ryan's saying, that I think he, as a rookie, produces a tight end. That doesn't happen. And then why I don't like Kmet is because Kmet doesn't get open. He has to be schemed, or the defense was like, all right, yeah, beat us with Kmet. Dulcich actually gets open and can be like a target hog in small sample size. I know what I mean. But for a tight end, he can catch 5, 6 passes in the game, which is very rare. I just would be concerned week 1. And so, yeah, I would want some depth there just in case.
Dulcich is my most exposure player for best ball of all players. And then on top of that, I've got him in most leagues, most of my redraft and dynasty leagues that I've been able to grab him in for dynasty. I have him paired with Juwan Johnson for week 1 for this occasion, where if I get nervous, I'm going to play Juwan Johnson. He's got the better matchup. I think he's got the better opportunity for target share. But in half of those leagues, I'm probably still going to start Dulcich because I think there's a chance that we're all just kind of sleeping on it because of this Troutman news and stuff like that. We're all a little worried. I don't think it's going to matter. The talent will win out when it comes to Dulcich. Troutman's had his chance, and he's never been able to produce with it. He's a good blocker. Dulcich is a good pass catcher. This is kind of reminding me what's going to happen in Buffalo this year. Kincaid's going to go out there to catch passes. Knox is going to go out there to smash mouth block because he's really good at it. And that's what you're going to see, especially with Judy out now. It gives me a little more confidence that he's going to get his target share.
Yeah, I think you made a good point with Judy being out. I think it does help Dulcich for sure.
Yeah, because listen, we're all dialed into most of these rosters. Can you guys name the number 3 right now on the Broncos for wide receiver?
Because Patrick and Hamler are hurt.
I think Hamler got cut, didn't he?
Yeah, Hamler's gone.
Yeah,
I think they're bringing him back.
They dropped the quarterback Kendall Hinton. They dropped him.
Yeah, Hinton's gone.
He's gone.
No,
Patrick's on IR. Yeah, I can't either. Like,
well, now I need to know because this is going to.
Callaway got cut. I was going to say Marquez Callaway because he got signed this offseason, but he got cut.
Yeah, he's gone too. Yeah.
So like, it's Greg Dulcich as the number 3 wide receiver right now.
I want to say they had only 3 on there for a minute after they did their initial cut down. Maybe that was a different team that I was thinking of.
Oh no, it happened with a couple teams. I think you're right. There was a couple of weird situations where
I know the Colts had one of those
3,
teams.
which worst team in the league to have that problem. Like, good Lord. But that's just my big fight for Dulcich. And I'm pretty high on Marvin Mims too. I've got him in a lot of leagues, especially after Alex's hyping up of him the past couple of weeks, and he's 100% right. Like, he's got the profile. He's got the profile to fit, and if Wilson can actually get more than half a second to throw, you know he's going to go deep, and that's going to be Marvin Mims' bread and butter. So I like a lot of his late round shots here with the $1 and $2 bids. Jerick McKinnon too. I love Jerick McKinnon. I know he's got Pacheco. He'll never start McKinnon over Pacheco, but I think McKinnon can catch 5-6 passes a game again this year.
I like McKinnon too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Not to take up all that from Dulcich, but I had to fight for him a little bit there. Is it on to my last team now, gentlemen?
Yep.
All right, so we got Fallen Kings. Quarterback, spent as little money as possible, got Geno Smith for $1, and I love that. I love Geno Smith. I think he's a top 12 quarterback this year. Quarterback 6 last year, and he gets JSN, but he gets drafted as a QB 15. I don't get it. Makes no sense to me personally. Running back room, love your running back room. Aaron Jones for $30. Miles Sanders was my flag plant in our article that Yards Per put out this week. I know that Alex likes Chuba Hubbard quite a bit, but I'm sure you don't think that he's going to get more touches than Sanders by the end of the season.
Not more.
No.
More than people expect him to, though.
I can see that. And I think that's also just based off of my personal feeling of this team's not going to throw a ton of balls. I think this is going to be a very run-first centric team. They have a very good run-blocking offensive line from last year. They're bringing back all those pieces. They were able to get, great defense. They were able to get Deonta Foreman, who didn't start the whole season, mind you, to almost 1,000 yards last year. And I'm pretty sure we all think that Miles Sanders is a better running back by leaps and bounds than Deonta Foreman. He's also getting paid top 5 in the league at the running back position, which nobody can get right now if you're a running back. So they obviously value him. I think he's going to easily hit close to 300 touches this year total. And they're going to work him into the passing game, even though he can't catch freaking passes. So he'll find a way to make his way to 20 receptions, and, it'll help him a little bit. And that's as your 3. I have Sanders personally ranked as a top 12 running back this year for half PPR. I think he just gets the touches and scores enough to where he makes it. I can easily argue for top 15, and he's your number 3 behind Barkley and Aaron Jones. That's great. Jaylen Warren, we've kind of talked about him a little bit already. I think he can get standalone value. This might be the first year in a long time that Tomlin has to play a second running back in most of his games because Warren just warrants it at this point. No pun intended. He has looked phenomenal when he's on the field, not just last year, but in this preseason. He makes Najee Harris look like he runs through mud. So I don't know how he's going to keep him off the field. And then Gainwell, I know Alex is a big fan of Gainwell. For $1, I'm fine with it. I still don't believe the hype that he's going to take a lot of carries away from the likes of DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny, but injuries are abound with those 2 players. So taking the shot on him as your number 5 is perfectly fine. And then Tajay Spears with $1. Great pick. I love Tajay Spears. He's one of my favorite handcuffs. If anything, God forbid, happens to Henry, I think he's going to be great. Highest paid player in this league is Tyreek Hill at 59, which I think is a good value when I see some of these other receivers that on
this team.
Oh, my mistake. I misunderstood.
No, I did it first too.
Okay, I apologize. Good value, like compared to what the rest of the league was drafting at the top there with some of these wide receivers.
Jefferson went for like 71.
Yeah, to get that much of a decrease, a $12 difference, I think is pretty damn good. Keenan Allen as your 2. I'm pretty high on Keenan Allen this year. I think he's a top 15 wide receiver for fantasy, and in a half PPR, he's only going to be better. $7 for Mike Evans is great, and I know that Evans is getting a lot of hate, and I'm not super high on the guy myself, but for $7 as your wide receiver 3 to put in your flex spot and get that random 30-point week is phenomenal. Your best pick in this entire draft, in my opinion, is Brandon Ayuk for $6. $6 as your wide receiver 4. I value Brandon Ayuk more than Deebo Samuel for fantasy.
I think he's your 3.
I do. I have Ayuk ranked higher than Samuel, and I think that's going to play out. I think he's the better overall receiver. Samuel, he's not going to get as many carries as people want him to get. It's Ayuk season, Dennis. You got to get on the train, dude.
But I mean, Ayuk over Evans, though, right? Are we doing Ayuk?
I think most weeks I'm starting Ayuk over Evans.
I would too.
I would try to find a way to force Evans into my flex when I can, just because I want that potential 30-point week. But
he's got he scores 30 points. Yeah,
his makeup's perfect because he's going to consistently get 15 or more points probably every week from Hill. He's going to potentially get that from Allen. So if he can find a way to flex Evans, he can ride out the 0-point week with the bigger weeks from Tyreek and Keenan Allen combined. And then your 2 flyers at the end of your bench for wide receiver, Rashad Bateman for $1. Listen, I don't love the guy, but for $1, you can't go wrong. That's a decent price. And then Jonathan Mingo. You guys, I can't remember. Have we talked about Mingo before? I'm not super high on him as a rookie. I don't think he landed in a good spot to produce year 1. So he's probably the first cut I think you need to make when you need to make a waiver wire move. Njoku for $5, not bad. I like Njoku. I think he's a top 12 tight end for $5. You can't go wrong. And then 49ers defense for $2. They play the Steelers week 1. I think that game's going to end with less than 21 total points probably because those defenses are great. So I do. I pick 'ems. I did them earlier this morning. That was my toughest game to pick, was who was going to win that game. But score wise, I think it's going to be just a dogfight. So, this is probably the favorite team that I have reviewed so far. People aren't going to think you have star power at quarterback with Geno, but I think he's going to consistently finish inside the top 12 for you. And you've got the star power at RB and wide receiver to propel you over the top pretty much every week if they hit their ceilings. So this would be, if I had to pick out of my 4 teams who's going to win the league, this would be my pick for sure. And I don't think you made any bad picks. Like, I can't pick out a one that you chose where I'm like, that's not a good one, because if it's a player I don't like, you've spent $1 on him, so it's not going to be a bad pick.
I love Saquon at 48.
Yeah.
In comparison,
48's good.
In comparison to where we talked about Joe Mixon at 46 earlier. Pollard, I think, was at 51.
Yep.
So I think Barkley has RB1 overall in his range of outcomes. He's going to get a ton of targets, I think, in that offense this year. They have got no wide receivers. It's going to be Waller. It's going to be Saquon Barkley.
And then whoever gets open.
If anyone gets open.
Yeah, I agree. This running back room is absolutely stacked with Barkley, Jones, Sanders, and then having Warren on the bench with the other Flyers. Like, if I got that in a redraft league, I'd be sitting pretty, dude. Especially with
my question
this is my favorite team too.
My question is
Hoffmeister.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. Go.
My question is, week 1, who are we starting? Like, among, you got 2 spots between Mike Evans, Brandon Ayuk, and Miles Sanders for your 3rd wide receiver in your flex spot. That would be my tough decision there between those 3 guys.
So Carolina plays Atlanta week 1, correct?
Yes.
I'd play Sanders for sure.
Evans plays the Vikings, and Ayuk plays the Steelers.
Evans.
Sanders and Evans. As much as I hate to say Ayuk, that's a tough game.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot for me to bench Sanders. I got to be honest. I'm with Ryan on this one. I think if he was my RB2, I'd be ecstatic. And the fact that you get to play him in your flex, you're good.
Yep, 100%. And like I said, and in drafts, I know his ADP has risen a bit. I think it's in the back of the 4th round now in 12-team leagues, but I've left most drafts with him as my 3. And like because he was going in the 6th round. So you can't go wrong, and I think he's going to max out. And against Atlanta week 1, Atlanta was piss poor against running backs last year. I mean, their defense was bad in general, but that was a target. So, yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Ayuk gets the bench in week 1, but you'll be playing him most other weeks. I can almost guarantee that. But, yeah, that's my league winner. I think that they're going to win this league, in my opinion, from all the teams that I've heard so far. You guys might change my mind with these last 2, but we'll have to find out.
Okay, so I'm up with the Alaskan Assassin. All right, great name, like that one. So it's got Lamar. What? Am I good?
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Okay. Lamar at quarterback. Sorry about that. And then he's also got Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. So he's got a phenomenal QB room. More on that later. Running back room, Derrick Henry, James Cook, Elijah Mitchell, Damian Harris. So kind of drops off a cliff there, but he's got a good solid 2. Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle. Love that pairing. Mike Williams, mentioned a little bit. Brandon Cooks, Michael Thomas, Kadarius Toney. Always comes up on our pods. So pretty solid wide receiver room. And then at tight end, he's just got Dalton Schultz. So overall, I do like this team. I think it's got some good players in it, and I can get to the superlatives, and then we'll go from there. So best pick, I like Jalen Waddle for $34. I think he's a wide receiver 1. The guy is just rocket fuel and pads. And the best part is that teams cannot even focus on him. They have to just live with whatever happens because he's got a speed. He's got speed guy 1.0 on his team as well. When Tua plays, he's an easy wide receiver 1 week in, week out as far as top 12 scoring. And then I just love that you got him for basically the same price as Calvin Ridley, $31, T. Higgins, $38, Devonta Smith, $32, even Aaron Jones, $30. I would rather have Waddle than all those guys.
Yeah.
So, I just love that pick. Worst pick is Brandon Cooks for $7, and this is totally forced, just because I really don't think you really overpaid for anyone. But I do think that Brandon Cooks is won a little bit more than what he's worth, as far as I think he's closer to a $1 or $2 or $3 guy. But I do think he's gonna be solid, and I think he could have he could push for 800, 900 yards. So I just wish he would have spent money on maybe a running back like Montgomery for $8 or Antonio Gibson for $2 rather than getting this wide receiver when you already had 3 really good ones, or at least 2 really good ones, and a third solid. And then the make your break pick, I got James Cook for $17. Yeah. You need him. This is the SpongeBob gif, when he's talking about water and he's frozen out in Sandy Cheeks' dome. I need it.
Yeah.
Because outside Damian Harris and Roshan Johnson, who are solid players as depth positions, you need James Cook to be the solid RB2, top 25 type running back. So yeah, and then the pick that wins you the title, Trevor Lawrence for $4. Now you may be thinking, we have Lamar Jackson. What are we doing here? Well, the reason why is I love your wide receiver room, especially if Michael Thomas could be healthy. However, Dalton Schultz is your tight end. That's your only tight end. And I already talked about your RB depth. You need Lamar. You have Lamar Jackson. So if I'm seeing a QB trade in your future, you can have Lawrence killing on your bench, or you can flip him and try and get either another tight end that you can maybe upgrade with, or even a running back that like a Zach Charbonnet kind of guy that, hey, if things work out while he's, Charbonnet starts slow maybe because Kenneth Walker's, the lead dog, flip Lawrence for him because you don't need a QB on your bench when you have Lamar Jackson. So that's why I think he would be the guy that wins you the title, just because in a potential trade, or maybe you flip Lamar and try and get a star. I don't know. But you just don't need both those guys, because those are both 2 guys I would love to leave my draft as my QB1. So you don't need both.
Yeah, in the famous words of Zach on a previous podcast, I'd say let your league mates pick the quarterback they want and get the haul. Because I think that, I I have Lamar ranked a few spots higher, but in terms of range of outcomes, I think both of these guys can finish top 5 by the end of the season if they max out. So why not get the maximum for those guys? Pair him with a Mike Williams if you don't want him as your 3 and the headache. But that's just me personally. Like, that's just an example. You have the wide receiver depth also to pair one of those quarterbacks to really upgrade. I would probably go at running back.
Me too.
But that's a personal preference. Like, if you really don't want Dalton Schultz as your tight end, you want to try and, I don't know, swing for the fences and get like a Darren Waller or something. Not that I'm pointing that team out specifically, but in that range of tight ends, I think that you could pull that type of trade off with the quarterbacks that you have. We've been yelling at everybody that's taken like 2 or 3 quarterbacks, but this one, like you said, makes sense. That's definitely a good choice for his league winner to make a good trade and go fix some of the issues that you have on an otherwise really solid roster.
Any thoughts, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same thing about running back. I think that's probably your weak point. Obviously, Dalton Schultz isn't great as your tight end, but I'm okay with it. I would rather strengthen the running back position. I'm not that huge on Derrick Henry this year. Worst offensive line in the league. All the touches he's had over the many years, he's had, 300 carries or more in 3 of the last 4 years, I believe is what it was.
I think it is 3 of the last 4.
He's 29 years old. He's going to be getting met in the backfield constantly behind that offensive line. I think he paid $45 for him here. I think I just couldn't get there. And then James Cook is my RB2. I'm really not sold on James Cook, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to have – yeah, for $17, I don't know. I couldn't do that.
I get that. I think
overall,
he can.
It's a good team, though.
Too, but
I agree.
I agree. I think I still picked the team that I had, but this is coming up in that top 3. I think if he can it's all dependent on if he can make the trade work, like Dennis said, to strengthen the running back room like he needs to.
Yeah. I think 100% that's the move. Like, you can survive with a tight end that's not great. Like, obviously, everyone loves to have a tight end that gives them an edge, but most teams don't, right?
Yeah, you can't. There's only 12 teams, and only like 3 tight ends that give you an edge. So
especially if Michael Thomas stays healthy, like, this wide receiver room is going to slap.
Yeah, you're strong at wide receiver. You're elite at quarterback.
Find some way to add some depth at running back. Give you another option.
Yeah, you're fine with Dalton Schultz. He's just Houston brand Tyler Higbee. He's going to get a crap ton of targets.
I do like what he's doing with his backup running backs, though. He's giving himself some upside with, like, handcuff guys, Elijah Mitchell. Yep. Anything happens to Christian McCaffrey, we're starting Elijah Mitchell every week. I think Roschon Johnson, he's going to give you a little bit of standalone value early in the year, but I think he can ascend to the top spot in the Bears' backfield. And maybe by the second half of the year, the last 6 weeks or so, maybe he's a guy that you can at least is viable to start in your flex spot.
Yep. Do you guys still believe that Damian Harris is the clear handcuff for James Cook after some of the Latavius Murray stuff that's come out where he's just been better in the red zone than Harris has?
So I still like Harris over Latavius Murray, but I don't think he's really like a handcuff. I think it's more of a shared backfield.
Yeah.
I agree with Alex.
Yeah, I think so. If you lose James Cook, don't expect to be able to just throw Harris in and be happy with the production. I don't think he's got that, top 30 ceiling like a lot of handcuffs do if they get thrust into the starting role because of an injury.
And the one time that the Bills starting offense got to the goal line in the preseason, James Cook was out. Damian Harris came in and got the carry and got the touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so that's what we're banking on with Damian Harris. His touchdowns.
Touchdown vulture.
All right. Solid. Keep it moving, Alex. Let's wrap us up.
Last team, the Harrison Ford Flyers. We saved the worst for last.
Oh God! Whoa. Worse than the one I talked about?
This is the worst team in this league. This guy spent all of his money on Jamar Chase and Bijan Robinson, and he forgot that he still needed to fill the other 14 roster spots. Not only that, his next 2 highest bid players or Alexander Madison and Khalil Herbert. And with Madison, I made a video about the worst pick in every round. Alexander Madison was my pick for the 5th round. He's a career backup who's fallen into a starting job. It's been 3 years since he was last efficient. The most carries he's ever had in the season was 134. He's going to be asked to double that this year. He's being drafted strictly for situation. I tend to avoid those types of players because it rarely works out.
Smart.
And Khalil Herbert is kind of in a similar situation, except on top of being a career backup, he has actual competition in that backfield with Roschon Johnson, like we just talked about. And Khalil Herbert has 0 chance of catching passes, whereas at least Alexander Madison could be worked in, catching some checkdowns and such. Khalil Herbert, he's going to max out at like 11 catches on the year. We get the quarterback. It's Aaron Rodgers and Kenny Pickett. It's kind of a blah group here. I don't love Rodgers this year. I think he plays slow and he doesn't have a lot of pass attempts because, one, he does play slow, but also because he's going to be running the ball a ton with Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall, because they're going to be leading games with a good defense, so they're not going to be asked to pass the ball a ton. So I don't think there's a huge ceiling for Aaron Rodgers. Kenny Pickett, I'm starting to come on with Kenny Pickett like we talked about earlier in the show, but I'm still not thrilled to have Kenny Pickett. But running back, Bijan Robinson, he's a stud, but I think you way overpaid for him when you look at the other
70s a lot.
Yeah, the other running backs in this league that you could have gotten for far less than Bijan Robinson. Tony Pollard, $51. Austin Eckler was even cheaper at $67. Nick Chubb at $57. Even if you rank Bijan ahead of those guys, it's not by much. It's certainly not enough to spend $70 for Bijan, where you could get Tony Pollard for $51. And Christian McCaffrey, if you're going to spend $70, he went for $1 more. Just go all in. Go for McCaffrey. Everyone's drafting Bijan hoping that he's the next Saquon Barkley. But why not just draft Saquon Barkley? Far better situation. He went for just $48. That's what I would have done. And then let's just get to wide receiver.
I know you're paying here. This is how I felt with that other team. I'm like, Jesus.
Let's get to wide receiver. At least we have Jamar Chase. He's a stud. Easily could finish as the wide receiver 1 this year. No doubt about that. But the drop-off from Jamar Chase, and then we've got Juju Smith-Schuster. I wrote on my notes for Juju Smith-Schuster, I just wrote, why? Why? I mean,
$3. $3 isn't terrible.
We had a report today that said the dude's knee could explode at any time. You're just flushing $3 down the drain. I don't care that it's only $3. Just setting it on fire. Michael Gallup, he's depth, sure, but in your starting lineup is where it looks like he's going to be. No thanks. Jerry Jeudy, he's got the hamstring. His hamstring is a mess right now. He could miss 4 to 6 weeks. Otherwise, I would have liked the Jeudy pick, but they drafted last night. They knew that Judy's hamstring is a mess. I would have stayed away. And then the bench is kind of weird with KJ Osborne, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Hunter Renfrow. I thought Hunter Renfrow died 2 years ago. These guys.
JD McKissick earlier. Now he's killing Hunter Renfrow.
These guys do nothing for me. Nothing. Tight end. I do like Dallas Goedert. He's good talent. Yeah. It's always good to have a good pass catcher from the Philly offense. And I think $8 is a good price for him. You got a decent value with Dallas Goedert here. But you do have a tight end 2 in this league. I do like Michael Mayer, but it's just not a guy that I want to roster in this type of league. If I'm going to roster a tight end 2, which I'm not going to if I have Dallas Goedert, but if I'm if I need to, if I feel like I really need to have a tight end too, it's probably going to be a Gerald Everett, somebody more in that range. I think Michael Mayer can ascend to that, but he's not quite there yet.
Right.
He's a guy I would just let sit on the waiver wire and let's just see what happens. Yeah, I'm just gonna say good luck with this one. Try again next year.
Yeah, I mean, so if I'm understanding right, when Jamar Chase is number 3, that means he was the 3rd player nominated, right?
Correct.
So you dropped 70 on Chase. Fine, go for it.
Okay.
You have to know the rest of this draft. You have to be frugal. You cannot drop another max price. And to do it with Goddard right away at number 6 for 8, when you know, like, tight end, like, you can survive not spending on tight end. And then to go at number 7, Bijan. Like, I think you were just too excited to spend money. And you just kind of handicapped yourself the rest of the time. I agree with Alex. This is the worst one. I'm sorry, buddy.
I still think mine was worse. I know. I mean, really,
the defenses.
Listen. I'd rather have Michael Mayer than freaking Cleveland Browns defense.
This guy and that guy need to do like a study session and learn how to play fantasy football.
And they probably watch. Those will be the two that don't watch.
Right.
Right. Aaron Rodgers, the only thing positive I'll say is he's the last quarterback on my list that I feel comfortable leaving a draft with because I can get him so late. And I think that when you buy into Rodgers, you're just buying into he's going to throw way more touchdowns. Like Alex said, this is going to be a slow, methodical offense. You're hoping that he's capping off 75% of the drives by passing a touchdown. So, and I think you can get that. So I don't hate Rodgers as your QB. But I don't think you need Kenny Pickett as well on the same roster. Doesn't make sense to me.
I feel like maybe this is a crazy hot take, but I feel like Kenny Pickett has a higher ceiling than Aaron Rodgers.
I agree.
I don't think it's crazy high.
He runs more.
Lower floor,
He's
probably.
got better weapons.
Yes.
Overall,
Rodgers has Garrett Wilson and nobody else. And then Pickett has Freiermuth. He's got Deontay Johnson. He's got George Pickens. He's got those 2 running backs in the backfield.
Yeah, well,
Allen Robinson's still there. He's not dead.
Shut up.
No.
If I'm going to get yelled at for Trey Sermon, we're definitely drawing the line.
All right, let me go even deeper. How about Calvin Austin with a breakout season on the
breakout season?
Are you going to say Tutu Atwell next?
No.
What are we doing? I completely agree with you guys about the whole Bijan thing. Like, I love Bijan. I think he's top 5 this year personally, but I'm not spending 70, especially compared to what everybody else was spending in this league.
Top 5 running back or top 5 overall?
Top 5 running back. Okay. Overall, I think is kind of rich. It's touchdowns. Touchdowns are the big thing for me. Atlanta, in terms of getting into scoring range, is what's going to be the biggest setback for him.
Yeah, I love Bijan just as a player in general. I'm worried about a lot of things with his situation. Touchdowns, like you said, probably aren't going to be there as much as we would like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Tyler Algier is just going to go away. I don't necessarily think that Cordero Patterson's going to go away completely either.
He's barely done anything preseason in practice because of injuries, though.
That's true. But a lot of people like to compare Bijan Robinson's rookie season to what Saquon Barkley's rookie season was. But he had Eli Manning, who was passing almost 40 times a game that year. Saquon had 121 targets and 91 receptions on top of 15 touchdowns and 1,300 rushing yards. That is really, really tough to reach that, even for Saquon. In this offense that's going to throw the ball, 30 times a game, absolute max?
I think that's stretching it.
He's going to have like a almost 20% target share to reach the Saquon receiving numbers. I don't think anybody thinks he's getting to 15 touchdowns.
And
he can get to the 1,300 rushing yards, but that's not how you score like RB1 fantasy points, top 5 running back fantasy points.
Well, and Saquon got there because Eli Manning's arm was a wet noodle at that point of his career. Like, I don't think anybody here really believes in Desmond Ridder, but he can throw further than Eli Manning, close to 40.
And Desmond Ridder, when he gets in trouble, he has the option to take off and run with it. Eli Manning did not have that in his range of
the statue of all statues
ever. Yeah. So, yeah, he'll check down to Bijan, but he can also, 30% of the time, instead of checking it down, he can take off and run for 10 yards, 8 yards, or whatever.
Yeah.
I still think my biggest critique is just that if you're going to drop 70 on Chase, you can't be dropping $50 on anybody else. And you went only
70. He went another 70.
Yeah, I know. You went only up to 70. Like,
and then,
it's just a strategy thing.
His next two highest guys are Alexander Madison and Khalil Herbert. Like, that is just like.
He walked in to the strip club, and instead of unrolling the wad of ones, he just went, yeah! And then it was over.
Made it rain.
Yeah, man, dude, I don't got a whole bunch else to say except for KJ Osborne. I like KJ Osborne a lot more than a lot of people. Listen, dude,
he's a waiver wire guy in this league. Easily replaced. You don't need to roster him in this league. You can start him at any point. He's fine. If you have a bye week, you want to pick him up. There are 50 KJ Osbornes on that waiver wire.
I say you keep him on your roster, but blow the rest of this shit up, dude. Like, it's rough. I
don't know how you save this.
The tough part is I don't even think you can like trade. I don't know if they have like a salary cap here with this league.
Okay.
Can other teams take on these $70 rosters, or can you even go out and trade for a guy who's higher priced to add to these 270 guys? Because you're going to go over your salary cap because you've committed so much to those two.
If that's the case, you're boned, and you might be worse than Speed God. I still vote Speed God is the worst. I think if these two teams went head-to-head, I think that Harrison Ford Flyers would maybe win 6 out of 10 times. It's like 60-40, but you guys are playing in the toilet bowl. Sorry. I just don't think that anyone's going to disagree with that on this podcast.
Nope.
Oh, well.
Top teams?
Yeah. Who wants to give their top teams for winning this thing? Because I think we already discussed our bottom teams.
Yeah, I think we agree. I think we're probably going to be the same on a lot of these. I like Hoffmeister as the number one. I like Fallen King 2. I think those are the top 2. And then maybe Blasting Assassins if they can get together, but otherwise it's waxing that ass.
What about I wrote down the Erie Ballers. I know we had a lot of critiques for their running back room, but a few things go right for them. If Jonathan Taylor ends up, that works out. If Breece Hall works out to go along with that receiving core. Dak Prescott, great value at $3. I think you have a chance at least. You have a chance.
Their ceiling
that's one of my favorite teams. Just
their ceiling is highest probably, but like I think their floor is a lot lower than some of these other super contenders, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the Alaskan Assassin, Hoffmeister. Those would be probably my top 2 teams.
I'm still picking Fallen King. I think Fallen King's got the best roster overall, and they can make the moves necessary if they need to fix something.
So I think there are a lot of teams in this league that have a chance. They're all, other than these 2 bottom teams that we talked about, they're all pretty, close together in their competitiveness. I actually wrote down, I usually only have like 2 or 3 teams when we do these that I think have a chance to be real contenders. Maybe that's because usually we do dynasty leagues. Maybe it's a little different. I have half the league written down as possible contenders.
Yeah, and I don't think I disagree with you. Like, there is a good 5 teams that I would be super happy with if it was my team leaving a draft.
Yeah.
And I think that the other 7 teams, 6 teams, I probably would be okay with like 4 of them. But those last 2, you guys got to figure it the fuck out. Like, this is horrible.
I don't think there's a clear cut above the rest type of team in this league.
I would agree.
There's no Maud Dave. I have to bring him up every time.
He's a legend.
But there's no team like that in this league. So I think pretty much every team has a shot other than a couple.
Yeah, I would agree. You agree with that, Dennis?
Yeah. I think, all 4 of the teams I covered, I thought were solid.
Yeah.
Push for playoffs, and once you're in the playoffs, who knows? And I agree, there is no super clear-cut team. I just personally like Hoffmeister because I think they go like really deep. Just looking, they only, they just were smart with their budget. In my opinion, I think they had the best draft.
Only thing about him is he lost the 40-yard dash.
Can't pick him then. Can't pick him. I'm wondering if the 4.7 is the official top time in the league for the 40 time. I mean, if I had the best 40 time out of my league and it was under 5, it would definitely be my team name. That's for sure.
How many hammies were popped? That's what I want to know.
How many are seeing the Minnesota specialists like Cooper Kupp?
Been icing it all day today.
Ice heat. All right. I think that covers everything, guys, right? You ready to wrap this up?
Yeah.
So that is our review of I got to get your team name back out again.
Hingles Bi.
Hingles Bi League. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We always enjoy doing these. And as we say at the end of all these podcasts, you can go to our Twitter handles, which are right below us on the screen, and you can ask us any questions in our DMs. If you got trade questions, waiver questions, stuff like that. Want to just tell us that we did a really good job or a really crappy job. I've had both of those. Actually,
have
so
you?
far. But I have the one league that was like you had to go on their covert ops league. They did not like me in that league.
Wait. Were you getting DMs?
So the guy who DM'd me was very nice, but he was showing me what the league was saying.
Oh shit!
I was
That's
not
awesome.
the liked person of that group, which I wear as a badge of honor, which is great. But man, they did not like me for that one. So perfectly fine. So yes,
Alex is going to be that guy.
I was just going to say I'm going to be this one for this league.
I don't know. Yeah, you went in pretty heavy. Even I thought I was bad this time around.
That's why I picked that team. I was like, I had some pretty good teams that we had a chance to pick a 4th. I was like, I saw a really bad one. I'm like, I got to get some anger out on this guy.
He chose violence today for that one, that's for sure. So yeah, we even want to see that. If you hate that we crapped on your team, we want to see it because it's a badge of honor as well.
And you know what? Go and get a second one. We'll cover you during the season, later in the year. We'll do a recap at the end of the year, or trade deadline or whatever.
Alex would gladly crap on your $3 Juju Smith-Schuster bid a second time.
He's going to be on your IR spot by the time we do a second one.
And then he'll go pick up Devontae Parker to replace him, and then he'll go on to
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, goodness. But, yeah, no, seriously, if you have questions, go to our Twitter handles. Go and DM us for sure. We will always be there to answer those when we get the chance. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Take care, and we'll see you next time.